you can pick up.
Hello, good evening, Cube fans, and welcome back to CubeCon coverage as we continue taking you throughout the weekend. My name is Monty Devuti. I have the pleasure of being joined by Mason Clark. Mason, how's it going?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be in the booth here with you, Monty. And this cube looks really sweet. This is the kind of thing that I'd want to draft if I was CubeCon. This might be one of my most exciting cube drafts of the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to be watching the Vistas Unventured Cube, and we'll talk you through what that looks like. Of course, we appreciate you choosing to spend your Saturday evening with us to catch this cube action. And just to give you a little refresher course on what is Cube, well, Cube is essentially a curated, limited environment. Designing cards from scratch, really difficult. Designing a limited environment from cards that exist, slightly less so, so still very much a time-intensive endeavor, and is something that we've seen a lot of Magic players be drawn to. And CubeCon is the celebration of that format, really celebrating the mixture of community and creativity that is Cube. It's been happening at GameholeCon in Madison, Wisconsin since 2022, and everything that you need to play is provided to you, so you just have to sign up and show up and really enjoy the Cube action. Now, taking a look at our main event structure, we've been through Thursday, we've been to Friday, and Saturday, that bottom half, the final fortune draft is where we are now. This is the top 128 players that have been gathering match points all throughout the weekend so far, have made it here, and this final fortune draft is where the stakes are upped a bit. This is a very low stakes environment, but this is where the stakes get upped a little bit. We are now in sudden death rules. All players with a 2-1 record or better in this draft, so approximately half, exactly half of the event will be progressing tomorrow, whereas our playoff rounds, and of course this is our coverage team who have been bringing you all the action throughout the weekend. Arya Karamchandani, myself, Monty Devuti, Ross Merriam, Gab Nassif, Brad Nelson, Luis Scott Vargas, Marshall Sutcliffe, Tannen Grace, and my lovely partner for the evening, Mason Clark, bringing you all the action. And part of the action is showing you who has been doing well. We are looking at our standings, and this is the top 128 that we will be watching play throughout the rest of this draft and this weekend. Names that I've seen stand out to me: Benjamin Whites, Abe Corrigan, Mike Hron, Phil Lee, Gavin Verhey. Just a wide range of very talented Magic players, and a lot of names that we have not heard of. But it has truly been a wonderful weekend so far, Mason.
It has been really, really good. And you mentioned a lot of those Wizards of the Coast employees, right? And Sutcliffe and I were talking about this yesterday, how this is like their pro tour. You know, they don't get to play a lot of events with a little bit of stakes. And so it's a lot of fun, but also we're in kind of the cutthroat time now. You know, this is their time to really shine, play limited, play awesome Magic, and they're really competitive. And it's great to see them coming out and being like, yeah, we still got it. You know, we make the cards, but we still game. It's going to be really fun. And we have one of those players in our draft that we're going to watch today.
Yeah, just embracing the community feel of CubeCon and getting involved even as WotC staff. And of course, speaking of getting involved, I'm going to draw your attention to our Tiltify link. We are raising money and awareness for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. This is a cause that is very near and dear to all of our hearts here on the CubeCon team and in the Magic community. If that is something that you are wanting to or able to support, !donate in the chat. We'll get you to that Tiltify page where there are rewards and there are plenty of opportunities to donate and really support this wonderful cause. We really appreciate it, and we're going to start getting set up for the draft. So as we see the players beginning the draft, we're going to tell you what the Vistas Unventured Cube really is, because this is a desert cube. For those unfamiliar, desert cubes mean that you have to draft most of your mana sources. For this specific cube, as the name suggests, every player gets to start off in their pool with a Prismatic Vista and one of each basic land. Every other mana source you have to draft.
Yeah, and it really changes things, right? Like we see a lot of times from players who want to take dual lands pretty highly. Well, they're going to be really contested because, you know, there's only so many lands in this cube environment and you need enough to function. So it's going to be very interesting. You know, if you don't take some lands early, then, you know, you're not going to be able to maybe, you know, play your cards, but also you don't want to take the wrong lands. It's very, very fun.
Yeah, it's also a very heavily archetype driven cube, so you will have to be making tough decisions between taking a land or a mana source versus a card that is integral for your archetype. There's also the question of if you can determine whether you are alone in an archetype, then perhaps you can let a pick go in order to hope you can wheel it and prioritize the mana source. And I think we are really seeing Micron, who is our featured drafter, embrace the philosophy of the draft here as he does start off with a Triland.
Yeah, I mean, tri-lands are about as good as they get, right? When it comes to having all the different colors. We see another one here for him in pack 2 if he wants it. And we talked about this before, like you do need to draft your lands. So getting these 3-color lands are going to go a really long way into making it so you have a playable deck when the time comes. You can take more powerful cards as those signals kind of come your way.
Yeah, and I think with the overlap between Spar's headquarters and the Zagoth Triumph here, there's more of an incentive saying that, okay, I have this blue-green lane with the colors attached to it available to me, and I think that's really where Mike is setting himself up right now. Generous Ent in this pack, potentially lending itself to that continued mana fixing route as well as a Gilded Goose. So definitely already looking at green, and it does make sense in a draft environment where you are responsible for drafting essentially all of your mana sources wanting to be in a color like green, if possible, giving you that extra agency.
Definitely, 100%. I imagine a card like Generous Int is a pretty good pick, especially like if Lorien Revealed comes your way, right? These sort of good spells that also are lands, so you get to cheat on your mana count a little bit. That is always appreciated in normal Magic and sort of helps here too. And looks like Drown of the Loch near the front of the pack here, as long as with Gilded Goose.
Yeah, the Ent having forest cycling, so being able to get both of the triumphs that you already have is tempting, but I think just getting a creature added to the pool you have access for, I do like Mike's decision to stay the course here with green rather than look at something like Drown the Loch. Now, while we have a moment, I do want to point out these are 3 packs of 16 for this cube, so just one more card than we're used to seeing. And the only break of the duplicate rule for this cube is the fetch land. So there will be 2 of each fetch land. Everything else is singletons across the board.
Yep, and it is a 450, so not guaranteed anything in this cube.
Yeah, I believe 85% of the cube will be drafted in any given pod. So you can bank on seeing most things, but nothing, as you said, is guaranteed.
Yeah. Now we get a little peek here at the picks so far.
Those Lonus cryptozoologists there being picked by Mike. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you can investigate and then sacrifice X clues to have your opponent reveal the top X cards of their library. You can put a non-land permanent card with mana value X or less from among them onto the battlefield.
Yeah,
so
very
powerful.
Yes. Yeah.
I think speaking of, while we're looking at the Simic archetype that he is angling to be in, the Simic archetype is called Game Objects, but essentially it's about spamming the board with tokens of all kinds and making use of those tokens. One of the cards that is highlighted here in the archetype primer is Academy Manufacturer. Just being able to, when you create one type of token, being able to create every type of token instead, incredibly powerful for this archetype to then give you a lot of resources to work with.
And it looks like Jada's near the front of the pack. The Ghoul Caller. As long as Stormchaser's Talent, I mean, Stormchaser's Talent, such a great card, yeah. Ends up being the pick, but tempted by the Jada.
Yeah, I think lending itself to that, I have access to black mana, I want different types of tokens to make use of the board, and Jada gives you that continuous potential output.
Yeah, and Timeless Witness, along with Aftermath Analyst, near the front of the pack here.
I'm a huge fan of the Witness.
Yeah, Timeless Witness is really nice, especially in like lots of limited environments. Aftermath Analyst, ultimately the pick here.
It does have nice synergy with those triomes if you do find yourself in a position where you are milling them or cycling them. It's a nice way to fuel your graveyard and have access to more tools for it. But it does seem like the number of Simic cards going around here is maybe promising for Mike that he is in an archetype that is at least pseudo uncontested. Of course, we are pretty early on, so it is difficult to say for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, we see he's got Rally the Galdherm in hand. This card's pretty strong, you know. There's a Simic dual land, and yeah, he's just gonna ultimately take the dual land. And we see this pretty often, right? Like you just take the duels, those sort of gold cards will come back to you. It'll be okay.
Yeah, according to the Cube creator on the Wind, they state that you're aiming to have about 4 to 5 lands per pack to stay on pace with accomplishing your goals and meeting the desert requirement for the cube. So already with Mike having, I believe, 3 lands that we've seen now, he's well on pace to do that, as well as being in an archetype that potentially needs less lands with things like Gilded Goose supplementing them.
Yeah, it looks like Glasspool Mimic flicked to the front of the pack here. Nice spell that's also a land, would get you to that 4 land mark we kind of talked about before. Just a powerful one to have.
Yeah, MDFC is definitely something that I'm generally a fan of in all cube environments, but certainly their value goes up in an environment like this where you are responsible for your lands. It's anytime you can quote unquote cheat on that by having access to more variety in your land choices, it's very tempting.
Looks like Tulane and Thundertrap Trainer are the 2 sort of picks here. Tulane a little bit harder on the mana, but more powerful than Thundertrap Trainer. Looks like we are going to take Tulane.
Yeah, he does have access to the Bat Triumph, as we saw earlier. So at least already on the way of fixing some of that mana. And we're seeing not much in terms of green or blue, but the blue-white cards from the Blink archetype going around now. So potentially some consideration of moving in that direction as well available to him.
Yeah, Timeless Dragon sort of looks to be pretty tempting there near the front of the pack. That's going to help you with your mana issues and just be also a great win condition in the mid game. And little green-white cycle land here. Yep, a great pickup.
Yeah, definitely not unhappy about adding that to the pool here. Blue-white continues looking open, but I think one of the concerning things potentially for Mike here is green seems to be mostly drying up. Not entirely, but the number of green cards that he's seeing at the moment in these later stages is not quite what he would like to see. Of course, the big question is there are some Simic cards floating around, and if he wields them, then that is a nice sign. But if none of those come around, then maybe his consideration to start shifting lanes slightly into more of a heavy white direction will get paid off.
Definitely. And I mean, a card like Reflector Mage is so nice too that if you do end up splashing white in your, end up splashing white or blue, which either way you end up going, right, then the Reflector Mage is a card you're pretty happy to have. The pack here looks like maybe thinking
Anthem of Champions.
Yeah, Anthem and Knight of Autumn seem to be the 2 picks to Mike here. Oh, it looks like it's Anthem. Anthem, excuse me.
Yes, he waits for the next pack here. It definitely does feel like green dried up a bit later on that pack. So obviously he wasn't overly committed to it by any means, but the question is how is he going to maneuver here as we are waiting for a pick still. A few more picks left before the pack is done.
All right, there's Kess. Looks like Castle Emberheart also. Just taking a little read, maybe. All right, takes Kess, Destiny Mage, and then Atarka.
Yeah, so slightly under on lands, but Not entirely, especially with that glass pool mimic. It does look like ultimately 5 lands or land-ish cards available to
Mm.
Mike after the first pack. So slightly under, but not the end of the world by any means. More concerning is that Simic dried up, so is starting to look at what the avenues are, whether it is Azorius with a green splash or ignoring the green altogether, and a lot of that will come with what this pack looks like. So
Mhm.
I would say probably not stoked with his deck after the first pack. Has access to some powerful cards, but feeling like you have to change directions in the middle of that pack there, not the most exciting.
Yeah, it definitely felt like we were kind of revving up to like, what we're gonna go on this wheel, and then we got to the wheel and we sort of tripped a little. We
Yeah.
didn't fall on our face, but we're not, like you were saying, exactly where we'd love to be right now.
Yeah, and while we wait for the second pack, I do want to point out the 2 trophy pins there on the lanyard of the player to Mike's right. Of course, those trophy pins are rewarded to players who 3-0 a draft, so anytime you've 3-0'd a draft throughout this weekend, you've been rewarded one of those trophy pins. And I expect a lot of the players in this top 128 have at least one of those as they've been accumulating points throughout the weekend, but definitely one of the cool pieces of swag that are available up for grabs at this con.
Yeah, it's really cool to see that kind of stuff and kind of get to have them as a badge. It reminds me of some of the shows as a kid where it's like they would win like little star chips and stuff like that. It's really cool.
All right, as we wait for the next pack, what do you think Mike's game plan should be going into this pack? Of course, you're seeing what you get, but
Mhm.
what exactly are you mentally setting up for given what the back half of the previous pack looked like?
Yeah, I'm definitely. I have a couple green cards that I would like to play, but I'm not married to them by any means. So I'm really hoping to either get, like a really strong, land of some sort that I can just kind of take and be happy, like a flooded strand or something like along those lines. But also maybe just some powerful Azorius cards so I can kind of hedge and just fully shift as I agree that like green downstream from us, or I should say coming this way, pardon me, is probably going to be getting cut, which means I'm not really expecting any cards to come my way in that regard. So I am thinking I'm going to probably have to pivot, but nothing too hard. There's Tropical Island, one of the first cards in the pack.
Yeah, Faithful Mending. I believe there was a Flicker Wisp there, but
Mhm.
overall, not an exciting pack, and that makes it a pretty easy choice for Mike. Of course, taking the time to sort of look through what is being passed there. I believe Conclave Tribunal,
Mhm.
a very solid removal spell to have access to, but not something that you're going to take over a premium dual land for your archetype. And I think the biggest win here for Mike is that he didn't have to make a really tough choice of passing anything to pick up a land. It feels almost free. Uh,
Mhm.
Maybe not ideal that green might look to end up being his splash color here.
Mhm.
So there's a card that I really want to mention. Soul Herder is a card that we hadn't
Mhm.
seen in the previous pack, and I think if Mike is going to end up in Azorius, that is a card that he's going to be heavily interested in. There's also something like a Restoration Angel in this pack, but with the Blink archetype being the primary direction for Azorius, I think there is a question here, especially with what I believe is a Windswept Heath in the pack, is how much are you considering synergy versus just continuing to take lands and risking, okay, well, my deck is not going to have any of the synergy, it's just going to be a solid deck of cards.
Yeah, it looks like we landed on Breeding Pool as the pick. I do kind of like the Soul Hunter take there just as like a hedge. That pack had a lot of really good cards for the Azorius archetype, so we might still end up getting one. But we're taking these Breeding Pools and Simic duels. There is a Brainstorm. Theoretically, a good amount of fetches in this cube if you can get them, but
Yeah, I see a time spiral, and there was a spider spawning going around, though probably not currently in the spider spawning lane as things stand. This is the second banned card in the cube. There are only 2 of each tricolor cards, so this is Derevi, Imperial Tactician. Of course, we already saw Mike pick up Chulane in the first pack, so at least in terms of banned cards, no one else has picked any yet.
all right. Takes Brainstorm. Maybe hoping these other cards come back around. Probably likely to get Derevi back to you, at least.
Yeah, I think that one you can feel reasonably confident in. Snapcaster Mage not leaving anywhere from the front of this pack.
Yeah.
It has been stapled to the front since Mike saw it, and a very easy pick for him, I would say.
Yeah, it looks like Mike has taken a lot of blue cards, probably just trying to be base blue, and then just probably end up being Bant total, and then if a bunch of green things somehow did come his way, things had gone weirdly in this draft, then he would have the duels to make it work. But as we're seeing here, not a lot of green cards, a lot of white cards. Path and Blade Splicer are both in the pack, and this is a tough spot. If we had the Soul Herder, Blade Splicer here would be really, really good. We don't, but we have Snapcaster Mage Path. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Your
I think
opponents aren't going to have a bunch of basics.
this is definitely Mike having a low synergy deck, but very high in power. I think right now the most awkward point for him is that the large majority of his fixing is green, and his deck is ending up being lowest on the color green.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of overlap and stapling of these lands that if they end up just being essentially single color lands, you have a mana base for your deck that's still important, so it's not like it's wasted. Ultimately, when you only have access to one island and one plains going into the draft, a breeding pool that just taps for blue is still useful, but he would like if he was seeing some green to get value out of.
All right, Ballot gets recovery near the front of the pack. A regrowth that's also a land, but like you're saying, we would like some better green cards, to have in there. Not really looking for tapped forest.
Yeah, it's not ideal by any means, that's for sure. But these packs have not been ideal. That's definitely the reality of the situation for Mike. Is a lot of the times when he's had easy choices, it's been because of unexciting packs, and then when he's had difficult choices, they've been really difficult, like passing that Soul Herder for a land, etc., and how that positions him going forward.
Yeah, takes a Getaway Glamour there, just a removal spell. A little bit of blinking.
Woodland Acolyte, a pretty exciting one, I would say, in this spot. Something that he's looking at.
Yeah, I mean, this card maybe does, blow down doors when you look at it from afar, but it is just solid. And, the green half, you kind of just get to free roll in this deck if we end up in band. But looks like
Disorder in the Court? Is that what got picked?
I think it was, yeah.
Okay, they exile X target creatures that investigate X times, return the exiled cards to the battlefield tapped under their owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So, powerful instant speed spell, cool with Snapcaster Mage. You can use it both for protection and for potentially pushing damage through if you want to target your opponent's creatures to exile them for the turn. It is that end of turn return. And it does return them tapped, so you can also do it so on your opponent's turn, you blink their creatures, they come back tapped at the end step, and you get to untap and take your turn. So there's a lot of play to it, but certainly it is continuing the theme of powerful but non-synergistic in his deck.
It does have one small super synergy with a card we grabbed very early in the draft, Monty, with Cryptozoologist.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
You sacrifice clue tokens. So there might be a little bit of blink my whole board, double my clues, and then hope your deck has something that can win the game if worse comes to worse. So kind of a sweet one. Hopefully that, synergy does make the deck. I'd love to see that happen.
Yeah, having the text investigate X is certainly very exciting. And I think, speaking of exciting, as Mike is holding the pack a bit low here, but I believe Flicker Wisp and Fateful Mending both wheeled. So these were some of the quote unquote premium cards in the pack for the blue white archetype. So the fact that they're wheeling is promising here for Mike and gives me hope that he'll have the Soul Herder coming back in this next pack. And if that's the case, I think he'll be really happy with the situation. Looks like not the case. Got Restoration Angel back, but Soul Herder, assumedly from the same person wanting both, was passed on.
Yeah, I mean, the Kitesail Otter here, it's an okayish card, but Restoration Angel just kind of fits the theme of good cards and actually does have a few kind of cute synergies with our deck, like getting, just a 3/4 flash flyer, solid card, whatever. Flicker your Snapcaster, flicker your Reflector Mage, excuse me. Your Cryptozoologist gets you a couple clues. It seems really hard for me to pass this card. So this feels like a spot where Michael maybe just needs to, accept reality a little bit that he's white and, needs this sort of card, but really likes the otter. And wow, okay.
Reality is not being accepted if you're Michael Braun here, and I respect it. I do love Kitsa, the Otter Ball Elite, but I've been playing Restoration Angel Snapcaster Mage for well over a decade at this point, and if I see the pair, I'm having a hard time passing up on it.
Yeah, I have not been playing it for over a decade, and I have a hard time passing. So I can't imagine, you ever doing it. Yeah, I mean, all right. I mean, Kitsa's not a weak card,
No, absolutely.
Just having a looter is great too. So, definitely a strong card. And it could be that Michael just thinks, okay, I'm going to be base blue and just splash, the bare minimum for anything else. So we'll see here. Ill-timed Explosion in the pack.
Yeah, it did pick up a time spiral here on the return. Playing red is currently a big ask, but definitely possible. Now, there's a card that I actually was excited about. I don't know if he took it there, but Secure the Waste was the card that I was hoping Michael would get back.
Yeah, I think he did take it, and that is a really nice card. I mean, it's just, the game goes long, it is going to win it for you almost always. So it looks like... Oh, sorry.
No, please.
I was going to say, it looks like Young Pyromancer still in the pack. So we've seen a lot of Izzety cards being passed around near the end here. So it looks to be the archetype that is least, committed to by those players. So somebody's probably pretty happy.
Yeah, and we do see one of the Orzhov Reanimator cards here also wheeling around. So definitely some more open archetypes than others. I don't think it's any surprise to see the green archetypes being more heavily contested in a cube where you are responsible for drafting your mana sources. But unfortunate for Michael here, as he did pick up some red cards, but I think ultimately red is still not overly on the table for him. I do like that he's managed to pick up multiple big instant speed spells to do, as that does make his deck harder to play around. If you are passing the turn with 6 or 7 mana up, and that could be both Secure the Waste or Disorder in the Court. That is two very different spells to have in mind if you are the opponent, and I think that is at least the type of things that you want to take advantage of in his position. Now, am I crazy, or did Derevi not wheel? Because I did not see it come back.
I'm pretty sure Derevi didn't wheel. If it did, Mike kept it in the back of the pack and didn't want to show us.
Okay.
So, yeah, a little interesting.
Yeah, definitely not ideal, but also not surprising. Again, we did see the Soul Herder go as well, so very much could be that somebody else is in the exact same position as Mike, where they are two of the bad colors splashing the third, and very much interested in both of those cards.
All right. Is that Mother Goose?
I believe it is, and I think that is the Rafine's Tower there. So an Esper Triome to add to the pool. Essentially a dual land, right? It's a tap Tundra, but certainly something that Mike has been sorely lacking. So I would be pretty surprised, given how he has been prioritizing mana, if he doesn't take it here. I think that is something that you can't really afford to pass in his position.
Yeah, it did look like he took it. Fell the Profane, a great card for somebody who's in black. Ooh, Arid Mesa. Okay.
Yeah, that's a slab.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has access to both the Bant and the Esper Triumph, so that is essentially providing you all three of your colors plus more if you pick them up. And I think that is going to be big if he ends up wanting to play potentially a black or a red card. Then having access to that fetch land will go a long way. He does have 2 black fetches now, so definitely a potential splash available to him if he needs it. Brago, is that what that is?
Yeah, that's Brago. That's a great flicker card. No More Lies also in this pack. Kind of fits the theme of, just good cards in our deck. Well, there's Vendilion Click.
Yeah,
There's
the good cards are plentiful in this pack. Where was this pack his whole life? Yeah.
Michael would love to take this pack and run.
Yeah, no, I think that is definitely what he's feeling. There's also Spell Pierce further down in the pack. This is the type of pack where if Michael had something like a Cogwork Librarian, he would happily be cashing it in. Of course, not to be found in this cube, but what do you do here? Are you taking one of the more powerful creatures, or are you trying to juice up your Snapcaster Mage a bit by picking up either that No More Lies or even the Spell Pierce?
Yeah, I feel so tempted by the No More Lies because I think people are going to probably be a land or two short on average. So I think that, your Mana Leak is going to be even more effective than it would in a traditional limited environment, and he ends up taking it. And generally, I just don't think we have enough things that I want to be flickering. I really feel like maybe if we had, like our Soul Herder and we had like a couple more flickery cards, I might have taken a Brago, but we just didn't end up in that direction, as it looks like Plateau's in hand.
Yeah, so I see Plateau and Boseiju both pulled up in the front here. A question of flexibility and leaving yourself the ability to play red, especially with the Arid Mesa you picked up earlier, versus the incredible utility that a card like Boseiju in your deck offers.
I think that's Lair the Hydra.
Oh, is it? Excuse me.
And you're all good. Weirdly, though, offers some utility. One of the things that we haven't talked a ton about is there aren't a lot of like well-statted creatures, at least that we've seen in these packs. And I'm looking through the cube here, a lot of basically low power toughness, utility creatures. So having like a 4/4 might actually just do really good on the beatdowns. It does look like Benny Bark Zoologist near the front of the pack here. If you make a token, you draw a card.
Yeah, has Convoke as well. I can't imagine taking it over one of the lands here, but he is considering it, and definitely this might be the most he's agonized over a pickup to this point.
Yeah. Took the Plateau.
I think that's probably the disciplined pick.
Yeah.
It does always feel like in an environment like a Desert Cube, if you are the player that is not stumbling, you're at least giving yourself some amount of percentage points over other people in the draft, and that in and of itself has a lot of understated value.
I fully agree with that point. Blossoming Tortoise, a card I would have imagined would have been pretty nice, just maybe it only hits the lands that it mills. I thought it gets back any land, but that might be no, it's return of
It
land.
returns any land, I believe.
Yeah, this card's, I don't know. It speaks to me, but no one else, I guess. Word Revealed. That's a great card.
I think that speaks to everyone.
Yeah. Wow. I mean.
Yeah, I don't know what it would take for Mike to not take it here, but I didn't see it in that pack.
Yeah, I would have probably been, at a loss for words. So I'm glad he took it, so I don't have to think of something to say. Great card. If we missing the Brago King and the Flicker Wisp now, but still a lot of pretty good cards there. We're on the Excavator. We don't have a ton of fetches, but I mean, we have the Vista, we have the Arid Mesa. If you have any, cycle of land, but
I do also see, I believe that was Shigeki, which is a very powerful card, and I think what he ultimately ended up taking. So I like that a lot, as now we get access to an Azorius and a Simic land in this pack, multiple Simic lands. So some great options here.
Yeah.
Time to do some math.
Yeah, we have Anchorage and Vinestock in that pack, so a lot of good lands. I think I just counted 13 lands, not counting Glasspool Mimic, but I might be mistaken.
Okay.
Pretty quick.
And I don't believe he took the regrowth that is also a land, the Balagan Recovery. I believe he passed that one, so I don't think he has access to that one.
I think that is correct, because he was deliberating a lot, and he kind of flicked them pretty quick and slammed. He's gonna take Restless Anchorage here, and I think that puts us at 17 lands. With Vista plus your three basics. Excuse me. So we might be good in that regard now. Obviously, we have a lot of tap lands, etc. But Dromoka's Command.
The assumption is everyone does.
Yeah, exactly.
Dromoka's Command Wheeling, that is very nice here in the spot. It was one of the cards that I think Michael was originally considering out of that pack, so happy to have it. It's a great card with Snapcaster Mage. It's cheap interaction, and it gives you a lot of choices in a cube where there's a lot of potential threats to answer. So this is exactly the type of card that I like to play, especially in an unknown cube environment. All of these environments for these players should be relatively unknown. They find out what cube they're playing approximately 10 to 15 minutes before they're playing it, so not a lot of time to really prep. And unless you're at home reading up on every cube beforehand, you're probably getting a small amount of time to really parse what is happening and formulate a game plan.
Definitely. All right. I was counting it there again. It looked to be 12. So
Okay.
maybe a little light glass pool mimic, not being counted there for me. I was counting duels and fetches, but
yeah, of course,
I think
that is in addition to the Vista and the 5 basics you have access to. So,
yeah.
worst case scenario, Michael plays a mountain that is essentially a waste in his deck, and it's not the end of the world. He has access to that. So, we're past the point where he has to actively be worried about getting mana screwed, and at least he has a lot of good fixing.
Ooh. Interplanetary sphere. I don't know if we have enough things to make that great. That would have been, a good card like Flicker Wisp. We can flicker this, get another hero token. Is taking a look at Bring to Light.
Yeah, I was looking at that Bring to Light. I think I would be at least somewhat interested in that, but it is the Astrologians Planetsphere there getting picked. So Job Select giving you another creature to work with. Not so bad.
Yeah, then Legislator taken here.
Over the Vendilion Clique, he's thinking about it.
Okay, maybe a little takesy backsy. Yeah, I mean, plans are nice for some of the flicker cards we have, like just flicker wisping it. It also, I think, fits the theme I'm seeing here for Michael of just kind of curve out, apply a little pressure, interact a bit, hope you stumble,
There, the Hydra wheeling. So all of the cards that he was moderately hemming and hawing over this pack are coming back, and that's nice. Lair of the Hydra more than puts us over that ease of mind point with lands, and it's a land that is a threat, so continues contributing to what his deck is sort of doing of just playing good cards and try to keep the board under control.
Yeah. Yep, can take the lair. That way you don't have to play, the mountain unless you want to, like we talked about.
Right.
I'll say maybe just want to play like 18 lands, like that sometimes does come up in limited. So we have a couple lands that are spells, so should be okay.
Yeah, and we also have, I believe, 3 triomes, so the worry of flooding is less prevalent if you have 3 of your lands that give you the ability to cycle them when you need to. Has the option of picking up a land here as well, though considering he passed up the red-white land, I'm going to guess that he isn't really interested in splashing any of the red here.
Yeah, isn't super interested. Might also just be trying to take it from somebody else. Shatter Skull Smashing.
Yeah.
Also take there.
That's the other thing is I think that giving someone a land late is a little too free. So it makes a lot of sense to me that when you can, you just cut a land from someone else and make sure you're making their life just a little bit harder.
Yeah.
That was a Jilt he got pretty late. That he can play. He has the ability to kick that. He has some free red sources.
Yep, and then Izzet Charm is the last pick of the draft, and this is what we have to work with.
Okay, so
there we go.
Computer, Zoom. So this is the full pool, I believe, not just what he is playing. This is everything he's drafted, if I'm not mistaken. So this is not his deck by any means, but it certainly looks like it is focused enough that he's not going to have to be playing a Young Pyromancer, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't talk much about it, but the Astrid Peth, from Doctor Who, a great card actually with a lot of what's happening here. Just when it enters, you make a food, and then whenever you sacrifice either a food or a clue, this explores. So kind of fits, we have a lot of incidental, making clues, making foods happening. So could end up kind of being a nice kind of filler card. But yeah, when we look at this, I do think we are going to see mostly just like a good stuff deck that has some small synergies put together. When I look at this, I don't see anything too crazy. We talked about, the court with the zoologist. That's kind of like the most wow thing jumping out to me here. Anything jumping out to you?
No, of course, there were a few late picks that we didn't get a good eye on previously. So it looks like the Conclave Tribunal came back. I think that's really big for him.
Mm-hmm.
The Timeless Dragon, of course, having the ability to, I believe, plane cycle there. That's really nice for this deck, considering all of the colors of mana he has access to that have the planes type on it. So ultimately, I think the deck mostly came together. I would say that in a normal cube environment, I would maybe feel like my deck is a card or two short, but as things stand, especially until we see it in action, I would say that in a desert environment, you're pretty happy with how this turned out.
Yeah, I mean, overall, like, the only thing I'm really kind of like that's like, man, I wish I would have done differently, where I wish we had, is that Restoration Angel, right? Like at the end of the draft, it's like, dang, if we had Resto, I'd be feeling so good. But ultimately, I think we're in a great spot, and I'm really curious to see how other people's decks look, right? How many other people are kind of scraping by, barely having enough lands, or maybe a land or two short, having to do the thing you talked about, playing an off-color basic. Not the end of the world, but it's definitely not the place you want to be. And remember, we are at the elimination stage of this event, right? You need to 2-1 or better in order to keep playing tomorrow. So, stumbling over and losing is the least favorite way, I think, for everyone to play Magic. Definitely a heartbreaker potentially here in this last event of the day.
Yeah, and it's definitely the type of cube where it is a lower power environment, and we have to be keeping that in mind. Is the deck looks a bit low power, maybe compared to some of the other cubes that we have seen throughout the course of this weekend, but the power level should be relatively consistent across the archetypes. So we probably won't see a deck that blows this one out of the water by any means, and it's going to be somewhat close. And I think that's going to make for really cool and interesting games of Magic as we go into the matches.
I can't wait to see them.
Exclamation mark donate in the chat for those that are able to or willing to help support us as we are supporting and raising awareness for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, a very near and dear cause to us and all of us here at the CubeCon team. So if you are able to donate, that would be very much appreciated, and there are some very cool rewards as well.
Yep.
Okay, so we are going to go to a short break. On the other side of this, we're going to come back with Matches of Magic, where we will see my Kron stack in action. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon.
Welcome to the FemCube. This is your host, Anthony Adams, and I am one of a trio from the UberCube podcast. This cube has been an absolute passion project, and I want to start out by thanking May and my mother and everyone else for giving me perspective in order to build such an environment. Every card in here is a representation of the powerful contributions of women in Magic. So let's get into the cube. Let's start out with some of my favorites. We got a typical, very peasant plus kind of idea about this cube. That's kind of the vibe, even though you'll see some powerful cards in here. But some of the favorites that you can win with are cards like Dream Trawler. This is an absolute bomb in this environment. Sublime Epiphany is another major card that just crushes people. Then let's go into the idea of something like aggro strategies, where Thalia, Heretic Cathar, really stakes a claim in this environment. And then through intent, I have each primary color of a lead character or a major character like an Elspeth or Liliana or Chandra in this environment to represent the Planeswalkers. Then we have kind of your mid-range control, where you can go do stuff like Samut or Vivian or Halana and Alana Partners. These cards, especially that one, absolutely just crushes people. The one card that I've been dying to get in this environment is a Young Pyromancer. I'm really looking forward to a woman representation of the art for that card. But Izzet Spells Matters is very powerful in this environment. You can also lean into like a Stacks and Taxes type of environment, which I love. There's a mid-range tokens. Then we got some ramp mid-range control with stuff like Bonnie Powell or the Goose Mother. This environment has really grown, and it's been through the feedback and the perspective of the community. I want to thank everyone for really supporting this. This is a passion project, and thank you so much for checking out the Cube. Happy cubing.
Hi, my name is Mike Bergman. I'm from Galesburg, Illinois, and I am the creator of the Foil Modern Horizons Cube for CubeCon 2025. I know that when most people hear the word Modern Horizons, they think of Modern Horizons 3, and all the broken cards that came from there. Don't worry, I feel you on that. I cut all the broken cards that came from that set. This is focused more on Modern Horizons 1 and 2. There are some 3 cards in here that make the draft overall a lot better. But some of the ones that are broken that I cut, for example, are like Psychic Frog, Ocelot Pride, all the Flip Walkers, etc. If you want the full list, you can go to CubeCobra.com. This draft is focused more on synergy and the draft mechanics of Modern Horizons. One last thing I want to mention is the mana fixing is very good here. I did add Shocks and Surveil lands after I went to CubeCon a few years in a row, and most of the cubes that I've seen that people like have Shocks and Surveils no matter what the set or theme is. So the mana fixing here is very, very good. But thank you for listening to me, and I hope to see you at CubeCon.
Hi everyone, and welcome to my Pauper Cube for CubeCon 2025. Thank everyone who voted for this cube to be in the main event. I hope many of you get a chance to play it. Had a lot of fun keeping this together and updating it and foiling it out for the past 10 years. And I really, really am proud of what I've been able to achieve here with this cube. Our playgroup really enjoys playing it. We've had a good time with it. And wanted to kind of go over a few things about this cube so you kind of learn about what's in here. So, and what's not in here? There's some things that are not in here, such as buyback or the initiative or monarch cards. Not a lot of things with hexproof are in here as well, just because those kind of mechanics and abilities don't really achieve what I'm trying to go for. I really want interactive games. I want them to be fast. I don't want things to be stalled out. So just kind of going over some of the specific archetypes that are in here. We have a blink archetype. We also have flyers. We have some tempo archetypes over several colors, as you'll see. We have a control archetype. We have aggro. We also have aggro is also over several color pairs. Sacrifice matters. Tokens. Go wide tokens is in here. We also have +1/+1 counters along with a small proliferate mechanic. We also then have extort and control in here as well. And then we have a sacrifice matters in the Golgari. That's mainly in the Golgari, and graveyard matters. If you're looking to do more of a combo-y reanimation, that's not really going to be in here. We're going to be more so a value type reanimation. Next is your big creature ramp and tempo cards. We also definitely have a spells matter that is certainly supported at this rarity. And then aggro is also here too. It's just in Boros. It's just not as well supported as it is in others, but definitely can get the job done, and it definitely works in this cube if you really go hard into it. But that's basically it. I really hope you get a chance to play it. This has been a lot of fun to keep together and maintain. Hope you have fun at CubeCon. Thanks. Hello, everyone, and welcome.
Welcome back to CubeCon coverage as we take a look at the room going late into the day. Things are still very much bustling as we are having the top 128 drafts underway. This Final Fortune draft, players trying to make it back for the final day, and of course, plenty of community and fun action going on the side. My name is Monty DeBooty. I'm joined by Mason Clark, and we have, of course, been raising awareness and funds for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention all weekend long, and we will continue doing so into tomorrow. !donate in the chat if you're looking for that link. That'll take you to the Tiltify page where you can look at the rewards that are available up for grabs, and of course donate some funds if you can to support this cause. Thank you so much, and let's get underway with Magic from... All right, we are underway with the Vistas Unventured Cube. Michael Hron, he was our featured drafter over on the left, Kyle Ferguson on the right. So Michael's deck did end up being about that Bant deck that we expected. On the other side, Kyle's deck is an interesting one. It is a 4-color token-driven synergies deck, and starting things off with a 1-drop already on the board, always exciting.
Yeah, this is a nice little 1-drop. Also, the blood's going to help it if you end up getting a little bit messed up on colors or needing lands. We were looking at Kyle's deck. He's a little bit not where he wants to be in that regard. His mana is pretty stretched, so this will hopefully help him a bit. But getting on the board early is where he wants to be with his Mardu-y, aggression and some other stuff happening as well. So Gilded Goose coming down.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that I potentially see here as I browse this deck is I don't know if he has a great black duel to follow this up, so might run into some color troubles there. And this is not what you want to see if you're starting your turn off with a blood token cycle. But there is the only blue-black duel in the deck, so maybe potentially at least kind of safe finding the polluted delta, being able to at least get access to black, which is probably the toughest color, though ultimately goes for blue instead here.
Yeah, maybe that's a nod towards what's actually in our hand. Getting the Volcanic Island.
Yeah, great start, of course, here for Michael, having 2 triumphs into a Gilded Goose that was met with a Unholy Heat there.
Bold the Bird. Good and limited, too.
Tale as old as time, as things go back Michael Perron's way. And of course, under the players' names, you do see those trophy pins. And that indicates that they have how many drafts throughout the course of this weekend. They have 3-0'd. So for Michael, it was 1. For Kyle, it was 2. All right, and we do see the Astrologian's Planisphere coming down here with its job select. That is a wizard coming down. So very much rewarding you for drawing your 3rd card each turn or casting non-creature spells.
Also, just a nice thing to flicker. We have Flicker Wisp in our deck, so we can get some more wizards. Attack for 1, and Michael doesn't want to block. Bigger dreams here for the Planisphere token.
Yeah, the equipment itself does not give any stats except for the counters that it puts on the creature. So that is a big part of things. Is you're making a 1/1 with the investment of later on you're hoping to grow it, and that is a great play here from Kyle, getting that Faithful Mending down to start to sort through this hand. As we saw previously, he may have been screwed on lands before that blood token. It looks like even after the Mending, that still continues to be true.
Yeah, setting his graveyard apart there has a Glacial Dragon Hunt as another card we can cast in the graveyard, but no land for the turn. If Michael can kind of curve out and then, play some good spells, this is what he set himself up to do.
And that is the Anthem coming down here that we previously saw him draft. I wasn't sure if it was going to make the deck, but the Anthem of Champions here, a 2-mana Anthem at the cost of essentially having to play double colors of mana for it, but that means that he's getting in for a big return attack, and that's trouble for Kyle considering he's stumbling here.
Yeah, big attack. Get in our Clarion Spirit. If we can get some lands, this card can really take over the game.
Yeah, that's the big issue when you have a card that requires you to double spell. If you're stuck on lands, you're likely not doing that. Credit to Kyle, his list has a lot of cheap cards, but he's already ran through some of them without being able to get value out of them.
Yeah, and here comes Chulane, the Teller of Tales. If you've never played against this card before, it is a real heater from the Brawl decks. Start it all.
All right, 3rd land for Kyle. That is really step 1 in the situation. Haven't gotten a good look at his hand, so we don't know exactly what he has access to, but at least getting some more pressure on the board with Ironcrag Pyromancer. The question is, can he get this engine started is what he really needs in this spot, because Chulane is going to speed up the clock considerably.
Yeah, and if we double spell, we start popping, but we just need to be able to double spell as Kyle. And it looks like Michael has got some uses for the mana.
Yeah, not slowing down. That is the Astrid Peth that you mentioned. So when that enters, as well as attacking, it creates a food token. So already really starting to get ahead and making sure that he has the ability to pad his life total a bit. So he's in a position where now he's not worried, as he already wasn't. It does feel like Michael is in a pretty commanding board position now, and there is a big onus on Kyle to turn this around, which unfortunately, as we got to look at his list, it doesn't really look like he has the ability to do so.
Yeah, and speaking of which, here comes Reflector Mage. That's going to be really big. The Chulane draws another card.
And that's the 3rd card drawn for the turn, so I believe that triggers the wizard token for the Planisphere, if I'm not mistaken, though it looks like Michael may have missed that one. So at least Kyle gets away with a little reprieve here. Not ideal, but certainly the Planisphere is a card, of course, made in 2025, so it has way more text on it than anyone would reasonably assume it does. And this is trouble now for Kyle. Things have been slowed down considerably. Finds an island, so potentially able to do something here, but the number of things that he has to now get under control is growing considerably each turn.
It really is. And, even if Michael just floods out of here for a bit, the Chu lane, just being able to bounce Reflector Mage, replay Reflector Mage, draw a card, it's going to be really tough for Kyle. It's one of those spots where it's like, well, what's the best thing that can happen for my opponent? They draw all lands. That's not even that, bad for them right now. So it does look like we have a removal spell for the Peth. That's nice. That's going to help a little bit, but...
Yeah, that was the Glacial Dragon Hunt being harmonized from the graveyard. Of course, the unfortunate part is that took the entire turn from Kyle, so not able to double spell, not able to make a token. Board continues getting away from you. Now a Ledger Shredder, another Chu Lane trigger, and have to mention, Chu Lane plus Reflector Mage could potentially just close out this game on its own now that Michael is at that 6 mana point from the next turn if he would like.
Yeah, and here's Storm Chaser's talent. That's going to get the Planisphere and the Ledger Shredder.
Yeah, has at least a trigger on the Planisphere from casting the non-creature spell. Another trigger should be going on the stack from drawing your third card again for the turn, but there is a chance that Michael is not aware of that specific line of text on the Planisphere. I do not blame him. There's a lot of them on there, but that is...
Michael's like, I'm happy with what I had. There's no way they put more text on there.
Yeah, no, this is fine.
Yeah. And here comes the Tropical Island. And yeah, I mean, at this point, I just think he doesn't know about the Planisphere text, and that's all right. I
don't think he needs to. I think it's fine.
A little, evening out of things.
Yeah, thanks to the vigilance on the Chu Lane, has the ability to make this attack and still potentially bounce Reflector Mage to clear the way next turn. And Kyle has seen enough, as I think that was very much truly enough from Michael's side, and that is a swift game one going to Michael run.
Yeah, and this is some of the things that we mentioned, back during the draft, right? Like, are you going to be able to draft a deck that consistently works? And, maybe you're going to be able to light a land or two, and if that happens, some really bad things are going to go on. Kyle barely light, but, is making it work.
All right, it is Restless Anchorage for Huron on the first turn. Kyle let things off with a Polluted Delta, but notably did not sacrifice it. So keeping it in play, hoping to potentially draw more lands or give himself more options for the land he wants to get with that before having to make the choice. One of the things that, of course, we have to be keeping in, well, the players have to be keeping their eyes on is the lands that they are able to fetch with their fetches, slightly lower on basics, of course, having access to only one. So depending on what their build looks like, that is something that they have to be weighing as well. So I do know Kyle has some targets left, but in an environment like this where resources are more limited, sometimes you don't have the perfect fetches that you would like.
Yep, you got to make it work. Does look like Kyle has a reprieve here. This seems like a pretty good spot to just, stop Michael from getting this Planisphere on the board. And if you're needing to hit land, just drawing a card. It's a pretty reasonable place to be in that hit. It looks like we're just going to Helix this, though. Maybe save that reprieve for a more expensive card.
Yeah, I did see at least an Otawara in Kyle's hand, so had access to a third land, and there's a fourth land as well, not having to use the Otawara anymore. So getting started with things to do, being able to play a 1-drop here in the Marauding Mako and still leave up the reprieve is very nice here for Kyle. So certainly better on the board than he was the previous game in terms of the resources he has access to in play and in hand.
Definitely. Also has some cool lines here with Channel Otawara, grow the Marauding Mako, probably remove a blocker, beat down. Brainstorm.
Yeah, there are some very minor discard themes and madness themes happening in the deck as well. There was a copy of Fiery Temper. There are cards like the Faithful Mending. So definitely you can see some of the synergies that Kyle's deck is working with. In this specific spot, can't cast Faithful Mending, doesn't have blue mana up, so probably doesn't have access to the Mending in hand. But on Haun's side, things have kicked off for the turn with a Brainstorm at sorcery speed. One thing we don't see for Huron so far is a green land in play, so hopefully has access to that or is trying to find it here, as if he doesn't, things could get kind of awkward. But there's the sparse headquarters, so at least that avenue of stumbling is out of the way for Micron.
Yeah.
Make a win.
Picked up a steam fence, I believe, so should be good on the mana now.
Yeah, the question is, what can he do with that mana? Looked like briefly considered playing the Otawara, but decides better of it and passes the turn back. Trying to get a look at his hand. I do see the Otawara and the Reprieve, but can't get a great look at the other cards available to him there.
I think that's an Urtai as one of the cards.
That would explain why he would shock in this spot. So Urtai definitely a card that is excellent in this type of position where you are able to play it, hopefully getting all of your opponent's mana if possible for the turn, and you're putting yourself in a position where your clock ramps up considerably.
Yeah, and Aftermath Analyst comes down, and we're seeing Kyle decide, is this thing I went to Urtai? And decides, nope. Mills a couple lands there for Michael.
Yeah, notably, one of those was the card that he put back the previous turn with Brainstorm and sort of hid, quote unquote, so was able to get rid of that as the choice.
Prismatic Ending, this is a great spot to be in.
Yeah, went to follow it up with an Usher of the Fallen, but I think one thing Kyle realized was if he does that, he doesn't have access to Reprieve up when we're getting into the more dangerous turns of the game. What you really don't want to be happening is you're putting the shield down on Reprieve, your opponent untaps and just slams a Chulane on the board, and then you have to sorcery speed Urtai it potentially. So I really like the discipline from Kyle to just dial it back a bit and be like, okay, I'm not gonna go all in here. I'm gonna make you work for it. And here's part of the terror that Michael's deck is capable of is these big instant speed plays.
Yep, Secure the Waste would have been amazing there. Urtai, a great way to check it. Michael does get a card for his trouble. Kyle gets a chance to develop this Usher and sort of really put Michael in a spot if he needs to stabilize this board. You know, funnily enough here, a card like Reflector Mage actually kind of does a great job of, holding down the fort. But does Michael have anything? The few creatures he does have are all statted a little well into these creatures. One of the funny parts about playing limited Magic sometimes, it does look like he has Reflector Mage.
Yeah, he has Reflector Mage and a decently full hand of 5 cards, so definitely has options. I think I saw Timeless Dragon as well, and if I'm in Kyle's spot and my opponent's passing with 6 mana and 5 cards in hand, I would immediately be considering what is going on. There is that Restless Anchorage there in the land zone, so at least has access to a creature land to spin up here. Maybe that's just going to be the consideration of spinning it up and putting it in front of the Usher, but Snapcaster Mage, Secure the Waste for 3. This is nasty, and this is a excellent reprieve for Kyle, who gets heavily rewarded for sitting on this.
Yeah, great play there. Makes sense from Michael's perspective. Okay, whatever. I'll Secure the Waste for 3. That's fine enough. But Kyle had the answer yet again. Snapcaster Mage does trade with the Urtai, so we get that off the board. Looks like Voldaren Epicure in hand for Kyle. Could something like Voldaren.
Now, should that Secure the Waste be back in hand, or is it exiled anyways?
I think it is exiled anyways. But maybe I'm mistaken. We had a judge over there at the table. It looked like they were leaning over, so...
Yeah, I'm not certain. I'm going to trust whatever happens on the table. I certainly mix that up all the time, so... It is in the exile for now. That is where it will stay. But back to Michael Cron's turn. Looks like he's preparing the mana for a Reflector Mage here to get back on the board. But this is a very different game from what we saw in Game 1.
Definitely. Also, Castle Ardenvale kind of going to be... There's Marchesa just got bounced to hand. And then, okay. The Getaway Glamour. So it's going to kill and then flicker the Reflector Mage to bounce.
Okay. Yeah.
It's spell bounce.
Okay. So Marchesa went to the graveyard. Glamour did blink the Reflector Mage, so those two cards, the Mako and the Usher, are in hand and cannot be cast this turn. So back over Kyle Ferguson's way we go, as he does kick things off.
Yeah. And I mean, Michael's in a really good spot here. His creatures, he's got 2/3. He has a Castle Ardenvale, and our opponent is sort of running a little bit low on cards that can like really matter. We can just sit here and just make 1/1s every turn, and this Timeless Dragon can just beat our opponent down in the air while doing that and having the Restless Anchorage. And there is that Shigeki you were talking about. That's quite a powerful card as well. Looking good for Michael here.
Yeah, he's definitely stabilized the board. The Professional Facebreaker joining the board the previous turn from Kyle can get things out of control, but as things stand, there are 3 blockers on the board for Michael, so definitely the way is not clear. And one of the issues we have now for Kyle is the creatures that got bounced with Reflector Mage are not inherently scary. There's nothing about the Mako or the Usher that are scary once the board is under control. So the amount of time that Michael was able to buy with that Reflector Mage means that now Kyle is stuck with some cards that really don't do much of anything in this spot.
Namesake of the Cube, Prismatic Vista, going down. And I think one of the last cards in hand from Michael is Glasspool Mimic. And if that copies this Timeless Dragon, this game could be over with very quickly.
Yeah, being able to have access to all of this is very, very nice here. As there's the Mako coming down, and here's the blood being popped, so able to get some nice value here, getting the discard from Mako, but still the question is, what are you doing with all of this?
Yeah, it's super cute. Your Obsessive Search drew you another card off the blood. You got the counter, but it's just not as strong as a 5/5 flying creature right now. It's just this, and this is something that just happens, right? It's like you can get a lot of powerful synergies, quote unquote, but sometimes just raw stats, especially evasive ones, conquer all. And I think that DRC is going to have to attack into the dragon with the current graveyard. I'm pretty sure we're delirious.
Yeah, and I think this is definitely the deck construction and the draft coming into it in some ways. Is Kyle is certainly the more aggressive deck in the matchup, whereas Michael is the mid-range, leaning closer to control deck. And Kyle did some great job getting pressure across on Michael in the early turns, but that Secure the Wastes coming down there, even if it was countered twice, it forced Kyle to be reactive in positions where he didn't want to be. He was using his reaction not to grow his lead, but just try to stabilize the board. And that allowed Michael to get away from this without having taken too much damage.
Yeah. Unholy Heat, a great draw from Kyle. That can answer this Timeless Dragon. But just the first problem removed.
Yeah, another pass from Michael means that has access to the Anchorage, has access to the Shigeki, so now a lot of potential problems being posed, but this is a turn that at least Kyle can get some damage across, as you mentioned, with this Unholy Heat, as well as the DRC, in order to fly across for some damage that is bigger than the Anchorage.
Lightning Axe on top of the deck for Kyle here, seeing with the Surveil from DRC. And so I have to imagine that one's good enough to keep. Just a kill spell, essentially.
Yeah, you did posit that one of the cards in Ron's hand was the Glasspool Mimic. The question is, what is the other? Because if it's something like Disorder in the Court, this could just be a completely devastating turn for Kyle. It could be maybe not GG immediately, but it would be as close to it as you can get. And I think this might be Disorder in the Court for 3.
I think it is. I think I was wrong. I think it's Lorien revealed as the blue. I got my blue lands mixed up there. But yeah, that is Disorder in the Court. Oh. And oh my. Get that one on screen for the people at home. This is going to get a little wild. You see Kyle's eyebrows kind of raised there.
Yeah, so it's definitely the Timeless Dragon. I would be shocked if it wasn't the professional Facebreaker. And the question is, do you have the ability to blink this Reflector Mage? I think the answer is no. So I think, yeah, you hit the DRC and the Facebreaker as well as the Timeless Dragon. You save your creature. You have the ability to go Reflector Mage on one of these attackers, Shigeki activate on the other. Has 3 clues as well, and things just got way out of control. Kyle was thinking, oh man, I'm getting rid of this dragon. I'm in good shape. He is not in good shape.
Yeah, things are bad. Luckily, there is a lightning axe on top of the deck that can answer the Timeless Dragon, but that is not what you wanted to have happen.
All right, so the Marauding Mako coming in. No trample. Blocks with the Shigeki. This is the Faithful Mending. If I was in Kron's position, I would be activating the Shigeki in response to this Mending, just to make sure that Kyle isn't drawing a removal spell that he can activate. It looks like Kyle discarded the Lightning Axe, but didn't Madness it, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, Lightning Axe is the one that discards. It's not.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
Yes,
it's the Firing Temper that you Madness.
Correct. Yeah, I was gonna say this was just draw 2, discard 2 to grow our Mako. We did hit Oscorp. A Mayhem land, so that's why that land's there. We can spend 2 life to put that into play. A very cute one from the Spider-Man set.
All right, so Michael Horan has Shigeki in hand, a lot of tools to work with, and getting his dragon back as well with the fear of that Lightning Axe gone. So I don't really know what Kyle has in this position now.
Yeah, I mean, I like growing our Mako and trying to get presence on board. I don't love the situation where it's like we know this dragon is coming back and we had an answer, albeit an expensive one, to it. Might be Kyle, just sort of feeling a little hopeless in the situation, and maybe also just knowing there's some better card that we don't know. Obviously, Kyle maybe sideboarded some card that he drafted as well. But
all right. Back to Michael Horan's turn. Shigeki joins the board again. All the creatures have come back, and he's feeling confident just passing the turn with 3 clues available to him. Restless Anchorage still lying in wait in that land spot, as well as Castle Ardenvale. So now Michael is in the point of the game where he is not running out of gas at any point. He is able to consistently do things, and that's what you want to be doing in the spot. All right, Faithful Mending, flashback from the graveyard. Any hope here for Kyle as first he gets that Surveil with DRC? Vindicate going to the yard. What is the card that he is keeping here?
Yeah, I am like, I don't know if you saw me looking at the deck, trying to figure out what in the world's better than Vindicate. I believe him. He sees the cards, but I gotta get shown. I mean, the Mako is big. It's got that going for it.
The Mako is big. It is a 6/6 right now. The biggest issue with it, of course, is no real form of evasion or trample or anything to push this damage through a potential just every other turn cycle of Shigeki bounce. And the question is, what can Kyle do? What is the card that he kept on top over Vindicate that he is hoping is able to push this game across the finish line?
I'm not sure, but let's see here. Yeah, his Facebreaker, I don't think it gives trample or anything like that, right? No, it just has menace. And whenever one or more creatures you control deal damage to a player, make a treasure.
Yeah, so this is Michael being able to spin up the Anchorage and doesn't have enough mana to make the creature and then make a Castle Ardenvale token, but this means the Timeless Dragon can go in front of the DRC and then could potentially use Shigeki plus the Anchorage on the Facebreaker and throw Reflector Mage away under the Mako, and that is pretty clean blocks where Kyle really doesn't accomplish anything with this attack other than eating a Reflector Mage at the cost of 2 of his creatures.
Yeah, and looks like All right. I'm still perplexed about what's in our hand.
Yeah, that is the big question for me. As I look at Kyle's list again, just to try to get a sense of what it could be.
Yeah.
Lightning Helix potentially, hoping to steal the game away at some point. But I don't really know if you can just afford to let Shigeki live and hope that happens from the spot.
Yeah, I have to agree with that one.
Yeah, definitely a tough position for Kyle.
Yeah, this is not where you want to be. And Michael just cracked 2 clues. There is a Glasspool Mimic. We finally found it. So now there's 2 dragons on the team. And Gilded Goose. And this is just such a hard spot to be in and get out of. I mean, you were talking about it earlier, right? Like, Kyle is the aggressor. Michael is the more controlling role. He has made it to the mid game. Oh, and we hit for 5, and now just a couple turns left at this rate as the Anchorage can get in there soon as well.
That was a Sacred Foundry off the top, so I don't know what that card is that we kept over Vindicate, but I feel like that is the only card, and looking at this list, I don't see what it could be to get Kyle out of this.
Maybe Kyle just thought he had Vindicate in hand and discarded the wrong card and hasn't looked. Now he's looked. Now I don't know what it could be. It's not Urtai, because Urtai is like worse Vindicate, right?
And Urtai's already been played this game, I believe. I think it's in the graveyard.
Oh, okay. I thought that maybe it was game 1 for a second. I was trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah.
It's not Baleful Strix. That would have been played now. That was something that, like, at least kind of, sort of, I could see, because maybe the mana didn't work out and it drew a card, but Michael cracks his food, cracks some clues, and
keeps marching on.
Yeah. There's the Anthem. And that puts us 1 short of lethal. No, that's exactly lethal with the Goose, excuse me.
Yeah, if you just spin up the Anchorage, you can just fly over for lethal. Michael also, of course, has the option to play this safe as, Kyle has 2 cards in hand. You don't want to throw away game from a position where you really feel like you have it, because it does feel like you are well and truly the driver here.
Yeah, and from Michael's perspective too, he also knows Vindicate got discarded, so he's trying to think of what card do you have. We're out here looking at the deck list, so Michael might be like, well, maybe there's some Settled the Wreckage or something like that in this cube. I don't want to just like instantly lose. Makes sense. I mean, there's really no way he can die from this position. Excuse me.
Yeah,
his deck is small. Not that small.
Counting the cards in deck, of course, Michael has been Shigeking each time. That is getting 4 cards out of the way. But the question is, what can happen here? And I love this from Michael, just creating a food token, just saying, I'm very much in control here. I feel like I have lethal in the air. Probably now the Anchorage is going to get spun up in order to make sure, even through 2 removal spells, this is a lethal attack using the Goose as well as all 4 flyers. And there's the handshake. So Kyle Ferguson going down to our featured drafter, Michael Hron, who, of course, Michael is one of the all-time limited greats. We haven't talked about his resume, but he is a player that for the longest time was one of the most respected limited players, and of course that applies to Cube as well. So not a surprise to see him doing well this weekend in a event that is so limited focused, and part of limited has always been the ability to adapt to different environments quickly. Sealed pools heavily rewarding your ability to quickly parse information, process it, and convey that in a meaningful way in your game actions. So I think it's no surprise to see a player of Michael Hron's caliber really doing well in this event. And at least for that match, his deck really did do the sweet things, right? It just looked great.
Yeah, it looked great, and he played it really well. Was it a bit of a precarious position, especially in that second game there for a little bit, but was able to kind of navigate his way out of it and eventually stabilize the game and win it. And like you're saying, a player like Kim, that's expected. But, part of the reason he's so great and we know him is because he does it so consistently. And this is just another tally in that long, long resume.
Yeah, and he is one match win away now. You do need to go 2-1 or better in this top 28 Final Fortune draft to come back tomorrow for our top 64 playoffs. So one win away. And for those at home watching, I'm going to remind you, !donate in the chat. We are raising awareness and funds for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. This is a cause that we all care about, and it is a great cause to support. So if you are able to help, any little bit helps, and we do really appreciate it. We're going to go to a quick break. On the other side, we're going to come back with the second round of our Final Fortune draft. Don't go anywhere, and we'll see you soon.
Hi everyone, my name is Noah, and I am the creator of Sky and Sea Cube. The initial thought that seeded my cube was, what if a set was designed around one central color, instead of 5 colors all fighting for supremacy? How would that shape the story, the draft, and the gameplay? In Sky and Sea Cube, a powerful blue ley line dominates the stage. Planeswalkers will form decks built from a spectrum of blue-aligned themes. You will sling spells against opposing blue mages, and cast wizards, sphinxes, frogs, and of course merfolk to ride the waves to victory. You may also employ the services of 3 other colors. Green may offer you ramp, white may offer you buffs for your flyers, and black may help you take better advantage of your graveyard. This is a highly synergistic draft environment, where players will often assemble multiple, overlapping, and powerful packages, such as double spell, double draw, top deck manipulation, enchantments, flash synergies, swarms of birds. There's a lot to uncover. And for everyone that sees a blue-based cube and assumes it's going to be their worst nightmare, don't worry. Creatures are king in this environment. Artifacts, mill, and other notorious blue strategies take a backseat when blue doesn't have to compete against the creature efficiency of the other colors. Now, the battle roars from beneath the waves and screams across the wind. I hope you enjoy it.
Why are there 2 of these in here? Are they roommates? The tabletop cube is a simple cube, in the same way that the wise old woman you know who plays mahjong for 20 hours a week would call her hobby a simple game. That is to say, it's clean and elegant, but you would be naive to think that what happens on the tabletop is anything short of an all-out war. The tabletop cube aims to be an accessible environment. It avoids all double-faced cards, all Universes Beyond cards, and includes no finicky mechanics like Monarch or Dungeons. At its core, the tabletop cube is an unpowered vintage cube, with its own set of power outliers, crazy turns, and occasionally salty mass land destruction. There is no Minsk and Boo, there are no Modern Horizons 3 energy cards, but you can still go wide with aggro, go tall with ramp, go to time with control, or go absolutely bananas with a 4-color lands pile that makes no goddamn sense until you spot the 2 copies of Lotus Cobra. On that note, the tabletop cube breaks singleton. It runs the increasingly common suite of double fetch lands plus double shock lands, but it also doubles up on City of Brass, Wasteland, Stoneforge Mystic, Snapcaster Mage, Gravecrawler, Thoughtseize, and these little guys. If these choices make you think, looks like a boomer cube, you would be only partially incorrect. I do run lots of cards that were released recently, like Rust Harvester and... Judge, am I a boomer? The tabletop cube is inviting. It aims to help 1,000 players get into cube, not to be 100 players' favorite cube. It's on the simpler side, but it's gorgeous and resonant and attracts some of the most fun sorts of Magic players. So pull up a chair, put on your pre-release stamped reading glasses, and make some new friends at the tabletop.
Hey everyone, welcome to a Cube Primer for the Bearclaw Changeling Cube. My name is Matt East. I currently live in Madison, Wisconsin, and play with Team Bearclaw. I started playing Magic back in the Invasion block, and got into the Legacy format, playing Goblins around 2009, and playing Combo Elves around 2010. These kind of typo aggro combo decks were a blast for me to play. I then took a break from the game for about a decade, until my buddy invited me out to the first CubeCon in 2022. My first cube at the event was the Unreasonable Cube, a cube featuring silver-bordered and other off-the-wall cards. It was one of the most fun times I've had playing Magic, and inspired me to get into designing cubes myself. The third piece of design inspiration for this cube was hearing about the Changeling Cube on a Cube podcast. It sounded like a cool rules modification to combine the aspects of Magic that I enjoy into a fun cube environment. In this cube, all creatures are all creature types in all zones. It's a fast, creature-focused cube where cards of different creature types interact with each other in unexpected ways. Decks tend to be pretty fast, with games decided by about turn 4. There are some 2 and 3 card combos, and decks generally range between aggro and more combo synergy focused. Giving a quick rundown of each color in the cube, white is focused on creature lords and removal, both spell-based and creature-based. Blue tends to be more of a supporting color in this cube. There are several copy effects, a small but powerful mill sub-theme, and light counter magic. Black is one of the stronger colors in the cube, with powerful creatures and removal. Look for a sacrifice sub-theme while drafting here. Red is another strong color in this cube, capable of explosive starts, strong creatures, and direct damage to close out games. Finally, green has powerful creatures, mana ramp, and card draw. One of the things that worried me initially was that the environment would be intimidating for newer players. However, I found that it's actually pretty friendly to play. Drafters have commented that everything just works. If you think a payoff will work, it generally does because of the creature type emblem. To help call attention to any creatures that don't work the way that you'd expect, perhaps by counting all creatures rather than just yours, I've added markings to the cards themselves. My goal is that no games are lost because players don't understand how a card interacted with the board. The cube also uses a straightforward mana base to help drafters focus on the creature interactions. There are 4 of each check land to allow for 2 to 3 color decks without the need to shuffle as often. It also contains 6 secluded courtyards to emphasize casting creatures enabled by the emblem. Thanks so much for watching this Cube Primer, and come check out the Bearclaw Changeling Cube.
What's up?
Welcome back, my friends, to CubeCon coverage. Things in the hall are marching on as all of our players, both in the Final Fortune draft as well as across the hall in various side events, are having a great time. And we are going to be watching. I lied to you. It's the best kind of lie, because we are watching more match 1 action here from our Final Fortune draft that we are featuring, which is the Vistas Unventured draft. So before that, I am going to remind you, !donate in the chat. We are raising awareness and funds for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Please, if you are able to donate and support in that way, we would greatly appreciate it. With that said, let's go to the action. It is Garrett Rubenstein on the left of your screen with 2 trophies against Abe Corrigan on the right of your screen, also with 2 trophies. And we have some very sweet decks here, but we also have really a clash of philosophies. Garrett's deck, that's the synergy-driven deck that maybe the cube was really designed around and hoped to support. It's very much a sacrifice-driven Jund deck. Abe's deck, it's 4-color good stuff. It is. And the good stuff are really good. But in terms of synergy, this deck doesn't have much going on there. It's just really good cards.
Yeah, we were taking a look at it. I mean, Garrett's deck kind of looks like what you would hope like a model Jund sacrifice deck would look like you're saying. Abe is just sort of like, I'm every color minus white. And I have basically all the best cards I can get my hands on with those cards, and I hope that is good enough. And he does have a lot of really strong cards if the games go long. So excited to see how that plays out here.
It is going to be Marionette Apprentice coming down for Garrett. I would be shocked if it has not created a token here in the Fabricate. Things go back Abe's way, and that is that Balged recovery that we talked about in the draft. Micron passed up on, so a slower start for Abe, but that is to be expected with this deck. It is in the later turns that he really shines, and the question for Garrett is how much pressure is he going to be able to put on while Abe is really just setting up in these earlier turns?
Yep. Abe Corrigan of the Wizards play design team. Very good at identifying rate outliers. It's his job, and he's good at it. And I wonder if he had a couple of these cards he saw, and he was like, well, that's got to be one of the best things to do in the cube, and started drafting around those, as that's a powerful one that just came down there.
Yeah, I think Judith was probably the best card that Garrett could have played on curve here, allowing him to come across for 4 damage here on turn 3, as well as already ramping up the pressure. Now Judith is essentially saying that if you want to deal with my board, you have to deal with Judith first, otherwise things are going to hurt. When non-token creatures you control die, Judith can deal 1 damage to any target. And with Abe just playing a creature and passing here, if Garrett is able to clear this off, then that is large chunks of damage coming across.
Yeah, Rada, just a 3/3 kind of when it comes down. It has some other abilities. You can play lands off the top of your deck. Really good at kind of, smoothing out your draws, making sure you don't flood out, that kind of stuff. But if you don't, here's Jury. But if you don't get a couple turns with it, it is not the world's best card here. So yeah, if Garrett can somehow, knock out this card, it could be a bad spot. Jury, another payoff for sacrificing cards.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we just see an all-out attack here. Garrett might be representing something like a Deadly Dispute, saying that whatever you block, I'll sacrifice that. This is, of course, a trade because Judith sees itself dying. It's not other creature, it's non-token creatures. So able to deal the 1 point of damage to the Rada to finish that off and just continue getting across for damage. Abe down to 12 now.
Okay, Ice Till Explorer is a big one. This is a new card from Edge of the Eternities. Let's play an extra up, and you can play with some from the graveyard. You also, every time you do, mill a card here. So Abe has some ways to buy back his cards from the graveyard, has some flashback spells as well, and has Seasons Past kind of as his ultimate end game here. As there is Deadly Dispute, like you talked about before.
Yeah, so you get the trigger from the Marionette Apprentice, You get the trigger on the Jury. So now Jury could start getting out of hand, except Abe is ready with a Fatal Push.
Yeah, and he takes 1 from the Apprentice, but not really the way you want to do it. And Jury had 1 base power as well, so Abe takes another 1. And then we took 1 from the server, So, Abe taking 3 at the end of turn.
Abe taking 3. There is a treasure token, being made from the Deadly Dispute as well. So that is representing a point of damage in and of itself with this Marionette Apprentice. So it really is not taking much for Garrett to get across the finish line here.
Yeah, if Garrett goes something like Corvolve here, it is going to be a really hard time for Corrigan. He has ways to answer it, but he doesn't have a lot of great ways to answer it.
Yeah, I think this is the first big test here for Garrett. If he's able to put more pressure on Abe, then his deck could fall behind. But if Garrett stumbles this turn, that's exactly the type of position that Abe's deck is ready to pounce on. When you're able to untap with that large amount of mana, the number of tools that he has available to him, as we can see from his list, is plentiful. So this is a turn where Garrett really can't let it get away without any more pressure being pushed across.
All right, so this is 5 mana. Take 1 from the treasure of the Marriott.
And it is! Asked and answered from you.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite Magic cards. I've played this one a lot. And we're going to sack a land here, get a counter, draw a card.
I have certainly cast my fair share of Corvolts, both cast in the commentary sense and the Magic the Gathering playing sense. And this is a really powerful card when you get to play with it.
Yeah, it is going to run away with the game very quickly, and it's going to trigger all of our sacrifice synergies incredibly well. We're going to surveil away a land off our land drop for the turn. So what can Abe do here? He did pick up Prismatic Vista for the draw step. Can use that twice with the Ice Till Explorer.
All right, there's the Mel. Traverse the Ulvenwald, going to the graveyard, I believe, and here comes the Vista sack.
Okay, Abe has Delirium, and I believe Ishkana is in hand.
Okay.
So that can hold down the fort for Corvold for a little bit, but it's not a permanent answer.
Yeah, it does feel like it is stalling more than it is winning, but maybe stalling is what he needs here. Has to be very mindful of the Marionette Apprentice. If Garrett is able to find anything else to go along with this, the clock will get out of hand quickly. That's an unfortunate one to mill here. Brazen Borrower would have been a great one for Abe to draw. Has access to Seasons Pass in hand, so won't take much more mana to be able to get that Brazen Borrower back. So stalling really might just be enough here from Abe Corrigan with this Ishkana. But for Garrett, now he has to be aware of the fact that the clock is on.
Yep. We get to play that second lane with the Ice Hill Explorer, Mill Thundertrap Trainer. Abe keeps milling these pretty good cards he'd like to draw, but like you mentioned, Season Pass is in hand, so if we can get a stable board, we can do it. Looks like... No. I think we just actually needed to pay for our spell. It's fine.
Yeah, just correcting how he was tapping there, wanting to be able to Prismatic Vista again this turn. And Garrett says that's fine, as Abe explains it. This does put Abe down to 6, so that is of some concern. Every point of life matters when you're facing something like a Marionette Apprentice on the board, and I would be a little concerned in Abe's position that you are making yourself vulnerable to that Apprentice. Garrett does only have 4 lands on the battlefield, so not the end of the world by any means, considering he did sacrifice one the previous turn. But if Garrett has something like Mayhem Devil to follow this up, then suddenly Abe might be regretting the extra points of life that he's been paying for this Vista.
And one of my personal favorites, Why the Reliquary comes down the battlefield, and it's pretty large here.
I think that was a Wooded Foothills being drawn for Garrett, so a land with the text sacrifice on it is really helpful for what this deck already has going on right now.
Yeah, it is really good. Looks like we have a cycle land for turn.
Okay, maybe not Wooded Foothills. I may have seen there.
The red-green art direction of make it red and kind of rocky, you know? All right. Okay.
All right, Honest Rutstein coming down here, so that'll return Judith. So Garrett has set up to try to close out the game next turn without needing to attack. The bad news is the existence of Seasons Fast from Abe here, being able to have a huge turn of setting things up and essentially having a full grip of gas.
Yeah, and I think there's a Bitter Triumph in the graveyard. So that would be an answer to the Corvald.
Yeah, at worst, the Brazen Borrower is there. Of course, you don't want to rely on that one to get the job done, but it is available. And, you know, the synergy of Garrett's deck just continues impressing me. This Relic of Legends, just so many random legendaries in this deck that you don't really see at first glance. Cards like the Honest Rutstein just continues making it so suddenly from a position where, okay, maybe Garrett is limited on lands, we get to a position where he's able to do sort of anything next turn, and that's really scary from Abe's position.
All right, Abe attacks with the white and then sacrifices a spider token in order to go get a land from the deck. And get the Creeping Tar Pit. That's a great one for actually winning the game. Funny enough here, yeah, Abe was just double checking maybe something about Judith there that was picked up off the Rusting like we were talking about. This deck's getting very small. First land for turn, Prismatic Vista. He's gonna do it
his deck
again.
getting small is the goal, of course, because Seasons Fast puts itself on the bottom of your deck, and there are no counter spells anywhere in Garrett's deck. So once Abe gets to a point where he's essentially able to cast Seasons Fast, fill up his hand, put it on the bottom / top of his deck, and continue doing that cycle every turn, he'll feel like he is in full control of the game.
All right, we see the Prismatic Vista. Looks like he's responding to the Ice Till Mill trigger. That way he can make sure to get the basic from his deck. Doesn't want to accidentally mill it if it's his top card. And we might even see, you know, Abe's out of basics, I think, at this point, but we might just see him still play the Vista every turn just to get that mill going like we talked about. There's mill 2 from the Mountaineering as well, and he's getting really close to having a stranglehold on this game.
Yeah, this is Seasons Fast. My only concern here is the 4 life that Abe is at. I think it's going to be a question of what he's able to get back in this spot. Fatal Push for 1, Bitter Triumph for 2.
Brazen Borrower
Harvester
for
of
3.
Misery, I believe.
Yeah, Harvester of Misery for 5. Ill-Timed Explosion for 4. Not too shabby. Can pick up the land for 0, right? And then pitch out to the Triumph.
Yeah, I haven't seen what the 3 that was picked up was. I
thought it was Brazen Borrower. Maybe it wasn't.
It doesn't look to be Borrower. Borrower is still there, as is the Soul Manipulation. So there is a 3 being picked up that I can't get a good look at. It does look to be a blue card. Okay, so Push gets rid of the Marionette Apprentice. Has Triumph to get rid of a potential... Okay.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that Abe could still lose to a Judith here. I don't think this game is done yet.
I don't either. Judith is going to be a really annoying card, and Abe has a lot of pressure on board, but Judith, makes it so it's very hard to attack. We can maybe see like Judith, Devil, a sack outlet, and things go a little wild. Let's see here. Yeah, Rustine making Judith cost 1 less is huge. And that's makeshift munitions.
Uh-oh.
So now we can sacrifice a permanent in order to deal a damage. And Abe Corrigan. Oh.
Look, I was expressing concern about all of these prismatic vistas that Abe was using. Yes, it was the engine of his deck, but when you are well aware that your opponent has a Judith in hand, I think you have to be a little more careful with how you're using your life there, and Abe does get punished for it. Relic of Legends alongside Rutstein allowing Garrett to have more mana than Abe may have initially been counting on, and that allows Garrett Rubenstein to take the first game.
Yeah, I do wonder if Abe also had maybe some life gain card he was trying to mill into. Like, just some creature that randomly gains life. Taking a look over at his list here, all these cards these days got an extra line of text attached to them.
I will say the 3 costs that he did get, by the way, was Unravel in the previous game. So he did pick up a counter spell, but he was hoping the 2 removal spell he fired off that turn would be enough to get the job done, and then hopefully get to untap with the Unravel. But Judith plus Munitions was able to close things out for Garrett there.
Yeah, and Deathrite Shaman coming down here for Garrett. In that last game, we just saw how good it was. And here, it actually is making Abe think about not cracking a Scolding Tarn, because he doesn't want to give Garrett that chance to jump up to 3 mana, as he just saw how many powerful cards there were there. And those little small details, that's really what makes or breaks somebody, Being like, oh, maybe I don't actually need to fetch and I'll play my 1-drop, or being like, no, I have to actually I got to get on the board here. Great stuff from Corrigan. I love to see these little things thought about.
Yeah, and we are looking at Garrett's deck. There are 8 3-mana cards in this deck, so it's very much a good consideration from Abe of exactly what my opponent is able to do if I'm giving him access to that extra mana. So for Garrett, if he has any of those 3 drops to capitalize on the opportunity he's been given here, that would be excellent.
Yeah. And Vohar Voldaren Desecrator, coming down. It's a looter with some extra text as well. And there's Mayhem Devil. That's a card if you've played the Jund archetype before.
Yeah, Fel the Profane was played as Felmire there, so it costs 3 life to get the Devil down this turn, but again, this was what Abe was hoping to avoid and what Garrett was hoping to capitalize on, was this Deathray Shaman being able to be ramp into a Mayhem Devil. So now for Abe, even some of the plays that he made the previous game, like looping Prismatic Vista, that is no longer a play that you can make when it is hurting you for an extra damage or hurting your creatures with every essential iteration. So very much something that you have to be aware of.
Yeah. There's Jada, the Ghoul Caller.
Yeah, so Jadar at the beginning of the end step going to make his Decayed Zombie, of course. Decayed Zombie's great synergy with all of these sacrifice shenanigans, and again, this is just what I love from Garrett's deck, is exactly how many synergies there are available to him here.
Yeah, I like this from Abe. He thought about petty thefting with the Brazen Borrower to maybe bounce something like the Devil, but realizes with his hand and the way this game is going, I actually just need to kill Garrett. So he just hard casts Brazen Borrower, doesn't worry about getting, full quote unquote value, just gets in for 3 and realizes I need this game to end sooner than later.
Yeah, Brazen Borrower has never looked good in the face of a Mayhem Devil. Has always been a bit of an issue. So we'll see what Abe is planning on doing. I think that is a Simic command there from Strixhaven,
Quandrix,
if I'm not mistaken. The Quandrix command, as you said. So likely hoping to use that for a blowout of, okay, you're trying to sacrifice something, I'll put some counters on my Brazen Borrower and maybe bounce one of your creatures, etc. But if Garrett is able to interrupt that in some way, then things can get really problematic.
Yeah, and it looks like Garrett's casting Lagmos, the Hand of Hatred. Just more and more ways to sacrifice and do things.
Yeah, this is a problem for Abe. There is way too much synergy coming out from the other side, and all of the cards are just working in perfect harmony to put the pressure on Abe. And even with this Quandrix's command, it does feel like almost a temporary reprieve. We are getting to the point where Abe is on this copy of Ill-Timed Explosion or bust at the moment.
Well, we're gonna loot. Kept a forest in hand.
Bounce the Devil, put counters on, I believe, are the months.
I believe so as well. Okay, so now this Brazen Borrower is getting in for 5 on the future turns.
Yeah, the zombie comes back. The clock is now on for Abe, and it is much harder to remove this borrower than it was previously. So that's the start.
Yeah, Garrett has 2 things if Lagmo stays around that can sacrifice. So Mayhem Devil, it's going to have at least 2 pings if it can come down.
Yeah, would really need one more to get rid of this Brazen Borrower. At the moment, I don't think Garrett is in a position to be focusing on Abe's life total. Step 1 is get his own life total on the board under control, as Abe looks to be considering discarding a Scalding Tarn, just saying that I really don't want to be playing this fetch land with my life total in such a precarious position, as well as you potentially having access to Mayhem Devils. But putting in the yard is its own issue with the Deathray Shaman on the battlefield.
Yeah, I wonder if what Abe is going to try and do is discard it, play the Force from hand, and play the Ice Tail Explorer to just immediately get it out of the yard. And then, work from there. Obviously, that's not a great place to be. You could mill another land, but I think that's kind of what he's considering, because he does have a land for turn in Drew Explorer. Looks like he's going to discard the forest.
Yeah, so now may play this land first. Okay, so he's going to get both lands in the graveyard and then play Ice Tail Explorer, which means that Garrett won't be able to respond by removing just one of the lands in the yard. And this guarantees that the Ice Tail will get something back this turn. So I like this line from Abe.
Yeah, I'd love to see Garrett sort of activate his DRC in response and maybe eat the basic forest here if Ice Tail gets played. That way you force the fetch land to still be the one in play. You can get a point of damage across, or, make it so Abe can't really use a bunch with the Devil in the future.
Yeah, I do think that when your opponent has choices, being able to limit the choice is in your benefit. We saw how much those chip damages ended up mattering in the first game from Garrett, considering how much of his game plan is about incremental damage from these sources like Judith or Mayhem Devil. But ultimately, it looks like Abe is happy to give Garrett the free point of damage, and, in Garrett's position, not complaining. Now he gets to keep that forest there and use it for mana the next turn. Garrett is down to 8, so the clock is very much on, as he is looking at his hand. We know of the Mayhem Devil there, don't know much about what else is there, but the big thing here is that Brazen Borrower needs to go, and Garrett is aware of that, so that is priority number 1, is either kill Abe or kill this Brazen Borrower.
Okay, there's Pian Kira Nalar. That makes some flyers.
Yeah,
also
that's
waited
2 blockers.
Yeah. And the blockers you can sack to deal 2, and then with your devil, that's a 3rd.
Alright, so as Thopter tokens are being brought, we see a Xander's Lounge played as the land for the turn, and then Deathray Shaman does end up going and exiling the land available for Abe in order to follow that up.
Yeah, we have Lagmos plus Jada. We could attack with our 2 tokens.
Yeah, that is essentially free. So I believe that attack will be happening.
Yeah, maybe Abe is fetching before combat. He's gonna mill Seasons Past. Okay, this looks to be end of turn, so no attacks going on here.
All right, so back we go to Abe Corrigan. That was Forsworn Paladin, by the way, coming down for Garrett. So having another menace threat, also has the ability to pay a life to create a treasure token. So it's essentially 1 mana, because 2 mana to activate, make a treasure token you can sack immediately, but it's 1 mana to create something else that you can sacrifice, which is not irrelevant in this position with the Mayhem Devil in hand. So definitely the combo engine Garrett has is ramping up, and the onus is once again on Abe to try to get this under control.
If you Torrential Gearhulk, you can't Torrential Gearhulk Seasons Past, right?
I don't believe so. Seasons Past is a sorcery.
Yeah.
So it does have good targets for the Gearhulk, like that Quandrix's command, but not the Seasons Past, unfortunately.
Okay. Abe's definitely trying to close the door here. Looks like has traversed the Ulvenwald in hand. And I think he is currently delirious, but if he casts the Ulvenwald, then never mind, the Deathray Shaman is tapped, so that wouldn't matter. I was about to say you could eat in response, but there's Creeping Tar Pit off the mill from the Icehill Explorer. That's a good one on making sure the game ends quickly.
Yeah, and now he can traverse safely, confirms has Delirium, so is able to go into the deck for a creature or a land if you would like, depending on what he needs in this position. Normally I would say Gearhulk is the easy choice, but Harvester Misery is a really nice one on this board. I think that will close things out.
That has got to be what's going to clean up these games. I mean, like everything is basically going to die. There's no marionette to, like drain Abe for a bunch like there was last time to at least make this close. And there's ill-timed explosion as well. So
yeah, the timing is very ill now because Abe is no longer even in need of that with that Harvester. This is going to be pretty close to GG, if not immediately GG.
Mm-hmm.
Icehill Explorers just looks fantastic.
Yeah, that card is so great. I mean, we've seen the Amulet Titan decks in Modern pick it up, and it's been awesome there. Just such a fun card to play with.
Yeah, and Ill-Timed Explosion actually hitting the bin. And as Garrett, you know why that is. You know that Abe has access to the Harvester, but just seeing the Ill-Timed Explosion hit the board, because this is going to essentially wipe you and leave your opponent with multiple threats. This is bad.
This is really bad.
Lagomos lives as a 1/3, so at least there's that. And this is Brace Bar only coming across for 3 damage because of the -2/-2 from the Harvester. But if you don't play it first, then you're just getting chump blocked by a Thopter token. So Abe doing things in the right sequence, but that does mean that Garrett takes only 3 damage here, and things go back his way as he is fully on the clock to do something this turn, or we are going to game 3.
Yeah, I'm not sure how he could really stabilize from this position. Yeah.
Neither is he.
So let's get a final deciding game here and see who is going to be in a prime position to make day 2. Both players still very much alive, even if they lose this round. You'd be at least 2-1 at the end of this draft. But believe it or not, you'd rather have a win than a loss.
All right, it is Garrett, on the play here. Looks like a mulligan to 6 for him, but kick things off with the Xander's Lounge, and then another tap land. So not the most explosive start, but at least your mana is very well set here.
Yeah, it looks like we got a Thinker on top of our deck, so we're going to leave it and pass the turn. Get Underground Sea.
Yeah, speaking of having all of your mana online, Abe being able to go double duels of different colors, meaning that he's now well and truly online, and White of the Reliquary on turn 2 is a very nice play from the 4-color deck.
All right, well, we're back with the Lagmos. And he gets an attack in there for 2 with the token.
Step 1, have a token creator online. Getting a look at Abe's hand, I see Creeping Tar Pit as well as that Quandrix's command that was so clutch the previous game, just pushing that damage across. And we'll see what the choice of play is going to be here, whether he has access to a 3rd untapped land or not. I would assume so.
Yeah, I have to imagine he does, but it's possible he doesn't. It's going to attack. Yeah, Garrett's just going to say I'll block, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. If Abe had played that 3rd land and the concern of Quandrix's command was there, that's a block that maybe Garrett thinks twice about, but as things stand, happy to just take what feels like a free block in that position. There's our reminder of the duplicates in this cube, with the 2nd Scalding Tarn coming down and the turn getting passed.
Judith, okay. That's nice. With our Lagmos, make the token a little stronger. When the token dies, deal a damage.
Ooh, that's not good though. It looks like the Lagmos is attacking as well here.
Yeah, it looks like Bitter Triumph is going to be the play, discarding Ice Till Explorer to kill Judith.
Yeah, with Ice-Till Explorer going to the yard, that will grow the white as well. So now it's going to be able to block Lagmos profitably, and there's no point in Garen sending the 1 damage to the white, as it will be a 3/3. So yeah, that's a big risk I think Garrett took by attacking with the Lagmos, and there was a lot that could go wrong there, and they all did.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe that's a sign of weakness here from Garrett. Maybe he's drawn 1 too many lands, has, not a whole lot going on, and is just trying to close the door because he's seen in these last 2 games just how powerful Abe's deck can be if the game goes long.
Yeah, absolutely. Just feeling the pressure to close things out and taking riskier plays because of it. It is the stadium headliner that comes down post-combat. That is Abe surveilling at the end step, deciding to put an island in the yard, and it definitely feels like when you are getting to turn 4 at 15 health and just a 1-1 on your opponent's side of the board, you are in control of the game with this deck that Abe is playing.
Yeah, and Blossoming Tortoise in hand. Yeah, we can play the Force for turn and then play this and get ahead on mana and have a reasonable body and potentially grow the white. Really great spot to be, especially with white having vigilance.
Yeah, now the white is attacking as a 4/4, I believe. And with vigilance means that you feel well and truly protected. And I think the best play for Garrett here would be Lad Corvold, but other than that, I don't really know if his deck, which is so heavily synergy driven, has the haymakers to drop in this spot and try to take advantage of the board state.
All right, Camp here and Nalar come down. A good card, but we do need to draw something like a Corvold, like a Mayhem Devil here sooner than later as the turtle, excuse me. It's another trigger.
Yeah, seasons past, Gearhulk and Brazen Bar are all hitting the bin, but there are plenty of card types and plenty of tools here for Abe to use.
Yeah, and Abe with a Fatal Push in hand. Things can get a little awkward if we try to block and actually kill the white, which I don't think we can actually do. I think it's a little too big.
Garrett thinking about how he's going to block.
Triple block on the turtle. Abe looking at the juicy Fatal Push here and clear everything up and keep his turtle friend.
Yeah, this is definitely what you talked about, which is desperation from Garrett, just trying with the limited tools that he has access to. And I will remind people at home, he did take a mulligan this game on the play, so he was already down a card and only 2 cards left in hand before this previous turn. So definitely a sign of weakness. And there's the fist bump as it is Abe Corrigan bringing it back after, I'm not going to say a self-inflicted loss in game 1, but definitely one that potentially, if he had been a bit more careful, could have been avoided. He is able to bring back the match, and that's the type of game that if you had lost that match, you would think about, especially a player of Abe's caliber, who we both know is one who thinks a lot about the game. He would have gone back on that first game and been like, how many less fetches did I need to do with that Vista? How did I put myself in that position, etc.? So not something he'll have to dwell on.
Yeah, probably good for him and his dinner mate, so that didn't happen. But still plenty of time for.
We've all been around that table with Abe.
We've been there, done that.
And all right. Thank you so much, of course, for joining us. I will remind you again, !donate in the chat to bring up that Tiltify link. We at CubeCon 2025 are raising awareness and funds for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. If you are able to help, everything matters, so every little bit helps. Awareness and donations. So thank you. Judge, what the f*** am I? We'll see you on the other side of this break. Looking at.
The ball pit, like its name implies, is an environment of unknown depths, filled with strange and wondrous objects in which one would normally not allow their vulnerable adult body to become immersed, were it not for the colorful allure of the spheres and the deep animalian urge to crawl into weird holes in the ground. The ball pit is built around 3 central rules. You can cast any card face down as a copy of Chromatic Sphere. You must draft all of your lands. This is a desert cube. You will draft a total of 60 cards, which form your final deck. No cuts, no sideboards. Because remember, you can always cycle a card by playing it face down as a copy of Chromatic Sphere. Gameplay-wise, the ball pit is a cube where most of your colored mana comes from cracking spheres, where most of your removal is aimed at resonant power outliers, and where most of your victories come from catching your opponent off guard with hard-fought value. Design-wise, the ball pit is a beautiful chimera between every Timmy's magical Christmas land of gorgeous curiosities and every spike's violent desire to ruthlessly squeeze the last drops of joy out of someone else's beloved childhood playthings. Timmies get to steamroll their opponents with armies of souped-up golems and obscure gleaming contraptions, and spikes get to answer the question, what if Pithing Needle had cycling 1? Flavor-wise, the ball pit is what Vorthos and Melvin would co-write in their dream journals over a motel breakfast the morning after a lengthy bender in the chrome-themed jazz bar of a 1950s pulp science fiction convention. And if that doesn't interest you, I honestly don't know what else to say. So jump on in. Let the spheres guide you. The ball pit awaits.
Hey! A bunch of us were gonna get together and test out my new cube. We were hoping to get an 8th. Would you be game?
I'd love to, but I'm pet sitting. My sister's out of town for a few days, and she really needed someone to take care of Dingus. I'd love to play, but I'm tied up here.
Oh, well, that's a shame. I was really hoping to get your input. It's a desert environment that has a lot of cool stuff going on. There's goblins, ramp, aristocrats.
It's 2025. Everything's a desert cube. Don't get me wrong, I love all cubes regardless of size, shape, or theme, but where's the spice?
Well, that's the cool thing. Thanks to the cube's other rule, the characteristics that make a card playable are kind of turned on their head. While staples like Bolt and Ewit are still very good, a lot of little-known cards like Apex Altasaur and False Prophet and Scornful Egotist are suddenly very playable. Stadium Benders has to be my favorite, though. The card is just... it goes into every single red.
Hey, wait, hold on. You do realize that Scornful Egotist is an 8-mana 1/1, right? That has better stats while morphed than when you cast it for its full cost. How on earth could a card like that be remotely playable?
That's the cool part. Everyone starts the game with an emblem that gives their creature spells emerge. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you can sacrifice another creature that you control but don't necessarily own to reduce the cost of the cast spell. Think the Harrogast but permanent. Most of the cube was designed with this rule in mind, and it should come as no surprise that some very cool synergies come into play when every single
Welcome to the FemCube. This is your host, Anthony Adams, and I am one of a trio from the UberCube podcast. This cube has been an absolute passion project, and I want to start out by thanking May and my mother and everyone else for giving me perspective in order to build such an environment. Every card in here is a representation of the powerful contributions of women in Magic. So let's get into the cube. Let's start out with some of my favorites. We got a typical, very peasant plus kind of idea about this cube. That's kind of the vibe, even though you'll see some powerful cards in here. But some of the favorites that you can win with are cards like Dream Trawler. This is an absolute bomb in this environment. Sublime Epiphany is another major card that just crushes people. Then let's go into the idea of something like aggro strategies, where Thalia, Heretic Cathar, just really stakes a claim in this environment. And then through intent, I have each primary color of a lead character or a major character like an Elspeth or Liliana or Chandra in this environment to represent the Planeswalkers. Then we have kind of your mid-range control where you can go do stuff like Samut or Vivian or Halana and Alana Partners. These cards, especially that one, absolutely just crushes people. The one card that I've been dying to get in this environment is a Young Pyromancer. I'm really looking forward to a woman representation of the art for that card. But Is It Spells Matters is very powerful in this environment. You can also lean into like a Stacks and Taxes.
Hello and welcome back. The CubeCon action marches on into the night in Wisconsin as you see all of the players having a blast on the floor here. My name is Monty DeBooty. I am joined by Mason Clark, and we are into round 2 of our final Fortune draft. We have been watching the Vistas Unventured cube. This is a desert cube, so the players start off with a Prismatic Vista and one of each basic land in their pool. Well, every other land they will have to draft, so that is all they have access to. We watched Mike Cron draft what looked to be a pretty cool Bant deck, and we watched him dispatch his opponent in the first round. Then we had the pleasure of watching Abe Corrigan win his match, and they'll be facing off against each other this round. But first, I will remind you, !donate in the chat. We are raising funds and awareness for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention all weekend long. If you want to get one of these cool rewards, if you want to support CubeCon and this incredible cause that we all care about so much, please, all help matters. Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us with your time on this Saturday evening as we are going down to it. And it looks like we're joining in here, potentially in Game 2. All right, so just a graphical error, I am being told. So we are in Game 1. This is the start of the match. Michael Huron on the left of your screen with a Bant deck. Abe Corrigan with 4-color, no white on the right. And Mason, talk to me about these decks because they both looked awesome. Who do you have here?
Yeah, so I mean, we followed Michael's draft, right? So this is the Bant deck we've been seeing if you've been with us the whole time. This is kind of trying to play pretty good cards, put pressure in the air, crew value takeover. Abe Corrigan is playing, like you said, 4 colors, not white. Honestly, just control. He's trying to interact, take over the game, and eventually cast Seasons Pass over and over again, and just, accrue value and win in normal Magic ways. So Michael's going to need to really put the pressure on because while his deck is good at sort of, going long, it is not nearly as good as Abe. So he's going to be the beatdown in this matchup.
All right, well, the beatdown has begun with Astrid Peth having made a food token, the previous turn when it came out, and another upon attacking this turn. Michael does have the follow-up land in Spara's headquarters, but that comes into play tapped, so the turn goes back. This doesn't mean Michael has nothing, because we do know there is a copy of No More Lies in his deck that he could be representing here with the mana available to him. But we go back Abe Corrigan's way as he does a little surveil on the end step, and we see how things are going to go on his 4th turn here.
Yeah, we also know Michael can always just crack the food to explore with Astrid if worse comes to worse. So, not what he'd like to do, but there's ill-timed explosion.
Yeah, Abe's saying that I do not want you to have access to Astrid for much longer, and there's that No More Lies. So Michael says, not today, as we go back his way. So unable to explore, but definitely getting to keep this Astrid alive. When your opponent is showing you that it is such a threat to him, he is willing to fire off ill-timed explosion on just the one creature. That means that Michael is very happy to keep this Astrid alive.
Yeah, probably happy to make that exchange on almost any 4-mana play, but gotta be feeling good about this one. Especially with it exiled as well. That's gonna make it harder to get rebought with something like Torrential Gearhulk, which is in Abe's deck, and I believe hand as well.
Yeah, they're in addition to Torrential Gearhulk, we have seen Abe using cards like Seasons Past, as well as Battlegate Recovery. So a lot of access to loop cards from the graveyard and get additional value from them. So this is a position where Michael, pretty happy with being able to get this far onto the board, knowing that your opponent's primary way of wiping a wider board has already been exiled permanently.
Yeah, Ledger Shredder conniving there, discarding Castle Ardenvale, a land that is good if things go long. You see Michael thinking about it, but ultimately deciding to keep most likely some more powerful spells in his hand as he gets more food for his trouble.
Yeah, 3 food tokens now, as well as the Planisphere coming down with that job select, giving you a wizard, and Ledger Shredder on the battlefield as well. So it was a land discarded to the Connive, so no counter put on the Shredder. But this is the board being very much in Michael Huron's favor.
Yeah, and research here, not terrible for Abe, but if he does end up using his mana on his turn, the Ledger Shredder does get to connive as a little consolation prize.
Yeah, definitely not looking to give Michael the connive if he can help it, but we will see how that goes. And notably, unlike the rest of the weekend where all the cubes have been just about gathering points. Here in the Final Fortune Cube, we have our 128 top players from the course of the weekend playing it out, and our top 64 come back for the next day. So right now, the goal for all of our players is to go 2-1. So whoever wins this match, guaranteed to be coming back for the final day of CubeCon and competing in that top 64. The loser will have to try again in the next round to try to get that second win. All right, after some thinking, it is going to be a Lad as well as Unravel being discarded for Abe. Untaps his 3 lands and just passes the turn, so not giving Michael that free connive that you mentioned.
Yeah, it looks like Mike... And we know he's got some spells in hand. He's going to attack first, get his food.
There's a Raging Ravine, and Abe is able to activate it if he would like, but it looks like Michael has been given the go-ahead, and he activates one of those food tokens, gets the Explorer. Abe stopped him momentarily, but ultimately says that it is good. It hit a land, which Michael then played, and passed the turn back to Abe.
Yeah, Michael... He's got the beatdowns going, and Abe now holding up Torrential Gearhulk. The old shock, nothing to do. Pass to you. We know Michael has Snapcaster Mage in his deck. So if he's able to find that card, Snap No More Lives would be brutal. Gaining more life while sacrificing his food. We're going to explore if the path is still around.
Yeah, the question is, considering Abe is very much leaving up this Torrential Gearhulk, whether he wants to, in response to something like Frantic Search, untapping his lands, getting access to more cards, and then either hoping to find something like a Fatal Push, or worst case scenario, using the Quandrix's command in hand.
Yeah, that is going to trigger Ledger Shredder. So Michael is going to get a little connive action here. Unsure what he discarded, but
whatever it was, got a card, got a counter. Excuse me.
All right, Abe drew 2 lands.
One of them was Balaged Recovery, so that is a spell land being put down there for Abe. We know he has that Quandrix's command in hand. I haven't gotten a great look at his other card. I thought it might be Seasons Past, but I'm really unsure about it.
I think it is Seasons Past. He flicked his cards around a little bit and stopped one that wasn't that, and it looked to be a green tree. So, yeah, that's got me thinking.
The list is limited in that sense.
Yeah, Balaged's in the graveyard. That's one of our few tree cards. So, what are you going to do?
All right, back on Michael Hron's turn, and we'll see what he has access to here, as we know that the Gearhulk is on the battlefield as a blocker now, so things are certainly not as free for Mike, but they will get pretty free with his Path to Exile, as now the onus is on Abe to act, whether he wants to be using Quandrix's command now or after the resolution and during the combat step. Now I will note, based on the previous match we watched from Michael, he played very well, but there's one line of text that he is unaware of, which is drawing your 3rd card in the turn puts a counter excuse me, with the Astrologian's Planisphere. So he has been leaving a little bit of value on the table. We'll see if that comes up again in this match, but right now he is continuing to march across for big points of damage.
Yeah, and I wonder if Michael has something like Snapcaster in hand, because if he does, he's got like Snap Path and Snap No More Lives available. So
yeah, I think this might be a Quandrix's command, just probably bouncing, I would say the Astrid, but I can't actually tell what Abe is targeting.
Yeah, you can see Abe's a little defeated. He's kind of just like pointing at things like that, so we'll do this, you know. He knows he's not in a great spot.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is not the type of position where Seasons Fast decks can prosper. When you're casting Seasons Fast, you want the game to be at least somewhat under control so you can take the turn off to do it and then use your tools. Abe is under full pressure here. It was the job select token that was bounced ultimately, but Abe should be going down, I believe, to 4 here, assuming Michael doesn't pop more tokens. So 4, I believe, is the remaining life for Abe, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a pretty rough spot because the biggest tool he has to answer this type of situation is the ill-timed explosion. The we know and Mike knows is an exile there.
Yeah, I think Ishkanah is probably his best draw now. That will help stabilize the board a good bit. Obviously, it could get got, but Rada is going to be the play for the turn. Ooh, and hits the Verge. Slow Gurk on top of the deck.
The Gurk. Will he live to be able to play and make use of Slow Gurk is the question.
Yeah. Can't quite what's on. We know Michael has a spell on top, and it looks like he left it. Didn't look like he milled a card. So both players know what Michael drew there. And we've been seeing this Astrid Purse. You know, this card really does like cause a little bit of headaches. Either it gets quite big, or you just don't draw all those lands and have that weird flooding out time that you normally would. As it looks like Path is going to answer Rada.
Yeah, and there's also the Restless Anchorage as well there on the battlefield. So there is the blocker in the Raging Ravine available to Abe there, but depending on what Michael gets in with, this could still very much be game.
Yeah. Michael could have equipped the Planisphere, right? If he had wanted to.
Yeah.
So it's got to have some other use for everything going on. Maybe it has some guaranteed way to trigger Connive and do everything.
And the thing is, my math said that Abe should have been on 4 the previous turn. So I'm wondering if our life totals were wrong there. Because Michael was certainly playing as if Abe was at 4, and 4 was the lethal attack there. So potentially the life total was marked down wrong for overlay there, which is no problem, but it is ultimately Michael Huron getting that first game, and we are into the second with Abe Corrigan kicking things off with a Thundering Falls, putting a forest in the graveyard.
All right. Tap lands for everybody. Abe going third.
All right, Planisphere comes back down, and this wasn't the big problem from the previous game. It was definitely Astrid Peth, but this doesn't hurt to have on the board this early when you do know the spells are going to be getting exchanged throughout the game.
Yeah, Michael needs to get something on the board so that it can at least be causing Abe a little bit of a headache, even if it isn't, too big a deal. As here's Wire the Reliquary. We saw this do great work for Abe in round 1.
Yeah, just a 2/2 right now, but I do see a copy of Soul Manipulation in hand, so Abe getting a threat down and then being able to potentially start making use of this card as a way of playing a bit of a tempo game could be very strong for him. What he really doesn't want to see is Michael taking control of the board with something like a Reflector Mage here. That would be really bad because it would allow him to get across for damage, but also limit the options that Abe has access to the next turn.
Michael attacks.
I think Secure the Wastes at least is available in hand, so that is a way for him to make 2 tokens and trade, or cast it for 1 mana and cast a second spell potentially, but I think he's very happy to take this trade and end up with 2 tokens here.
Yeah, we always think about Secure the Waste as this big blowout play, but right here, removing this creature that could easily grow to become a huge problem and put another creature on the battlefield is definitely far from the end of the world.
Yeah, ultimately, both of these tokens able to carry the Planisphere as well, so it is a way for you to use your mana if your opponent is passing the turn, leaving up some of these reactive spells, and saying that I'm going to play this game and force you to act.
Okay, so looks like Abe's just been drawing spells. Early in the game, we saw a Surveil to get rid of a forest, and now we're casting Traverse to get a swamp. So maybe a sign Abe had these lands to start with and has just been drawing action since.
Yeah, and his deck is pretty mana cost heavy. The curve is on the higher side, so it does make sense that he wants to be hitting these land drops.
Is that an anime, The Restless? He kind of moved it forward a little bit. Makes me think we maybe are getting the anchorage in.
I believe that's what he did, but there is the fatal push to meet it.
Stone Rain, let's go. This is potentially really big for Abe. Michael just spent his turn losing a land and dealing 2 damage on the turn where Abe was having a very awkward do nothing into. Oh my goodness.
That might be the game there. I will say Michael's not at 28, he's only at 20, but only at 20 can go down very quickly once Harvester of Misery comes down and you have no creatures available to you. Getting Stone Rain in that position is rough.
Yeah, this was really bad. And I mean, you know, if Michael was doing that last turn, right, it means he probably didn't have very good 4-mana plays. So you know that, you know, this next turn, unless, you know, he draws a good 4-mana play, you're probably in a pretty good position.
Right, cascading effects, right? And now he follows it up with an Anthem, which is a card that only does things when you have creatures on the board. So the fact that you've had your board cleared into an Anthem is kind of the wrong order for you.
Yeah, you have to imagine if Michael had that Anthem the turn prior, he probably would have played it. So, yeah. Abe makes his 6th land drop and looks to just be passing the turn. I was curious to see if Abe was going to maybe do some, you know, attacking with a little Raging Ravine. You know, like really just try to close this game out.
Yeah, I'm honestly a little surprised he didn't, but it does depend on what is available in his hand. We know he has that soul manipulation, so being able to have a turn where potentially Michael goes for something like a Reflector Mage and Abe is able to go soul manipulation, counter it, get back my white, would be pretty devastating. Same with this, so this is a pretty big swing that more or less feels like it is closing the door on Michael.
Yep. White back to the hand is kind of the Shredder. Yeah.
Land pass.
Michael's deck is good. It can play a long game, but it needs to have that pressure to really outdo Abe's amount of ability to go long. And he just doesn't have it now. We have a Glasspool Mimic in hand, which could be good if we draw something like our Timeless Dragon. We can maybe start chaining dragons.
Right. The biggest question for Michael is, do you have the time? Because right now, Abe is in a position where he could just turn on this Raging Ravine and get in for what would be 9 damage if Michael doesn't have an answer. Now that means untapping and just playing a creature the next turn is going to be heavily contested from Abe. We don't know if Michael has access to something like his Path to Exile in hand. If he does, that would be pretty good in the spot. But as things stand, Michael feels like he is very much on the back foot, and the door is closing quickly.
Yeah, I think Abe's really trying to decide here. Am I supposed to play this white or this Season's Past and just, you know, it isn't the world's greatest Season Pass, but, you know, getting back 3 cards here is definitely not that bad.
Yeah, it ends up being white pass. Michael does cycle as far as headquarters on the end step, but what can he do in this turn? Because this feels like more or less his last window, and tapping out for
Tulane
is not going to be it most of the time, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's a 3/5. All right, we have the Gilded Goose. That gets you a card.
It is unfortunate that it shocks you to do it, with the breeding pool. Dromoka's Command, a good draw if he can get there to cast it with a creature on the battlefield, but right now that is looking like it's far from given.
Yeah. Might see Abe just try to slam the door here. I mean, he has a surprising amount of power. He can, like, Seasons Past, get back Fatal Push, the bird, and then force Tulane to block. Or go to 2.
Now here's a question, because his swamp is on the battlefield, so does he have a land that he would need before Seasons Past to be able to Seasons Past Fatal Push this turn? Because right now I don't see the way of doing it.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, because the Water Grave's in play too. So we had, yes, the Vista. I don't think there's another fetch under there. Yeah, you have Basic Forest hiding out over there. Well, I would suggest not making the play I talked about before then.
All right, he did have the mountains. Like he had the availability to do it, but it looks like he didn't have the interest to do it.
Well, I'll tell you what he does have: a generous int.
Yeah.
5/7 coming down.
Generously coming across the board, and Michael is untapping for his last turn, and he does have Tulane on the battlefield. He does have that Dromoka's Command in hand, so potentially able to do something, but is going to need some help.
All right, Reflector Mage, I think, is the draw. I think Reflector
Mage. That's a really
is,
good draw.
Yeah, like, sorry. I think that has to be the draw, to be clear.
That is the ideal draw.
Yeah. If Michael,
all right, okay,
if
all
he
right.
could detutor, or if I could detutor for him, I think that's what I would do, because that lets you stabilize the board a bit more. You get a card. You're kind of, you're doing your thing.
All right, Aftermath Analyst.
Okay.
Puts a land on the battlefield.
From the Tulane trigger, yeah.
Mill some cards.
All right.
Has a food token. He can gain some life.
He milled the court, so you can snap court as well.
Okay. 3
Not
mana.
the world's greatest play, but
Glasspool Mimic.
Yeah, I think you draw before you have to decide too, right? Because it's on the stack.
Yeah.
So maybe helpful. Could get another goose.
Could get another goose.
Okay. We're cooking.
2 foods.
He puts the land in off the Tulane.
Yeah. So has access to Dromoka's Command. Has access to eating 1 food total.
Okay, the 1 food's actually kind of huge, right? Because now that means you can actually get hit by the generous int or the misery and not be dead. You wouldn't be able to fetch without cracking the 2nd food, but
right. All right, so this is Seasons Past, getting back Soul Manipulation, Fatal Push, and the Forest. That's our 1, 3, and 0. Pasco's on the bottom. Abe's body language is one of someone who thinks he's got this. I don't think he quite has it, given the tools that we know of.
Yeah, I don't think he does either. And if Michael keeps drawing creatures, he can maybe actually get out of this, because the gooses can like make foods as well, which makes all this awkward too. This might be a really weird game.
Yeah. Notably, the Harvester has Menace, but the Generous Ant has no form of evasion. So here comes Abe with everyone, and Michael can go double block the Harvester, and then use Dromoka's Command to fight the white.
Yeah.
That would be steps 1 and 2. Probably has to chump the Generous Ent just to keep your life total up.
Yeah, probably don't want to commit to just making a food and having to pop it and do all of that with your geese over the next couple of turns.
Right. So you put a counter on your goose because you expect Chulain to die anyways. You only need 2 damage, right?
Well, Chulain's also getting pumped by the Anthem.
Ah!
So it's a 3/5.
But he doesn't use Dramoka's command. Oh, that's weird.
That's super weird. I would get it if Abe had like a blue up or something. You know what I mean? It'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, checks out. I wouldn't, but I get it. Makes me wonder if maybe we're wrong about something. Like, is that not a white
was
land?
one of the gooses summoning sick? Is that what I missed?
Maybe.
I knew both of the gooses summoning sick. I knew one of them was sick. But I thought he had played it the previous turn with Chulain.
I thought so too, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe
right,
just
combat results.
No, yeah, this is just a normal Anthem. I was gonna say it's not like a weird one where it's only your turn, right?
Nope. It is just Glorious Anthem for 2 mana. So we're back on Michael's turn. He's at 2 life. The menace creature is off the board. He has access to a goose and 1 food token. I think that was Path to Exile for the turn.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Doesn't have access to a creature land, but has Castle Ardenvale. So path white and just start making chump blockers is certainly a valid line here.
Yeah, I mean, you do that. You can even start making foods and cracking foods. I'm supposed to, yeah. I'm still confused about that Dramoka's command, but this is one of those moments where Michael at dinner, like Abe in the last round, might be thinking about the Dramoka's command.
Right.
Maybe he saw some burn spell from Abe, but I don't think Abe has any because I can see his deck list.
Right.
But maybe that's what he's worried about. He's like, oh, this kid's got lightning strike. I don't know what else it could be.
Okay. So Abe's POV, he spins up the Raging Ravine. He's not spinning it up twice unless he thinks that it is specifically lethal, which I don't. Right now, he's looking at 7 damage, so it doesn't change with the food. The Ent does not have Vigilance. It's attacking, right? It only has Reach.
Yeah. It does have Reach, yeah. I think this is more Abe being a little sloppy and just sort of like shoving and being like, hey, I got a kill spell. Okay. So I know with your mana, you can't really do anything. And we get a game 3 out of this here. I can't help but think.
Yeah, Michael, I'm still confused what happened there.
I think he just forgot the Anthem. That's why I think he just did the math wrong or something and was like, oh, I should save this, but that's the only thing that can make sense. And you know what? We've been gaming all weekend long, probably a little hungry. Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, I mean, you and I were, relatively fresh. This is the 3rd match of Magic I've been casting today. I did 1 Arena Direct earlier, and I've been having a nice, relaxed day. Michael has been playing cubes for, approximately 36 hours now, just running. I don't want to... cubes are brain-intensive.
I don't want to brag. I won an RCQ today, so some of us have been in the streets,
Oh wow! But, okay, all right. No.
I thought I'd work it in. No big deal.
I think you should be proud of your accomplishments.
I should be. I played the worst deck you've ever seen: Blue White Control and Standard. Chat should donate because of my hard work.
Let's calm down. I've seen Boros Energy. And
I would love to be playing Boros Energy. I was playing a standard RCQ.
All right, fair enough.
But yes, Boros Energy is tough as Shinjeki comes down.
Yeah, we did see Astrid Peth come down, but that meta fatal push, Abe did not want a repeat of the first game. Shigeki coming down is a big problem. Abe's deck is a deck that is trying to out-resource your opponent. Normally it has no problem with that, but Shigeki is a card that can definitely prove problematic for that. So this is a position where almost all of a sudden, Abe feels like he might need to become the aggressor, at least for the time being. Rada does a good job of doing that, but as things stand, if Hran's hand is stacked in any way, then this Shigeki could take control of the game.
All right, Lorien revealed. Gonna be cycled for an island. Tropical island, that is. Not a bad place to be.
No, and the value of these cycling spells, being able to get the tri-lands or the duels in this cube, really does elevate them to just the sort of broken high-pick status, which is why we were talking about Michael really wanting that generous scent. It did end up in Abe's deck, but really just showing how good these cards can be.
Yeah. And Abe is having to read Shigeki. I think this is part of Abe's blackout period. That's the period where you join play design and you're learning all the cards from the future and you're no longer playing competitively. And he might be getting a brutal lesson in Shigeki right now.
Yeah, suddenly you have teleported into 2 years into the future, and Shigeki has just breezed by. What a card. Just wonderful stuff.
It's super fun card. Yeah, Abe was like, and it does what?
Round 2.
Yeah, Abe was like, under my watch, never would have come out.
It's like, oh, you can do this at any time, huh? There's no activate only as a sorcery on this one?
Yeah.
They went with that? That's what the team did? All right.
Looks over to his friend and coworker, Ben White. He's like, you said 2-man on the activate of this? What were you thinking?
Yeah.
As Lair the Hydra hits the battlefield. That's a good one.
Yeah, that was the land from Shigeki. I think might have a brainstorm here as well. We are, I believe, still on Abe's turn. Might be the end step here. I didn't get a good look if Abe passed or not.
I think he did. So, Mike puts back 2.
Back to Michael Hran's way, and he is ahead on lands thanks to that Shigeki. Shigeki, of course, back in hand, as it does. I see a Timeless Dragon in hand, so could just drop a 5/5 flyer this turn if he wants to, but we'll see what he has access to. Might just replay Shigeki and be happy with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Shigeki Hold Up No More Lies is a pretty great place to be. There's Bitter Triumph.
Yeah, Abe made the choice to let Michael have the Shigeki back in hand and then Bitter Triumph it there. So gets rid of it permanently, gets rid of 2 mana from Michael, and Rada continues marching across here.
Yeah, and we saw it there, playing the land off the top immediately for Abe. Basically drawing a card.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is nice. Abe's got to look at his top card too, so he's pretty happy to turtle here. Might even, might even be a land. Might just be a spell he doesn't really want.
I think Michael is very much looking at this No More Lies and thinking that I might need to fire this off right here.
Yeah. Turtle does have a synergy here with the Fiery Islet as well.
Sure does.
Just draw a card. But it does get No More Lies. Pop the food.
Alright, so Michael back up to 19 is that is Prismatic Vista, getting a Plains, and I believe Timeless Dragon is still in hand, so has access to the 5/5. Rada not out of control yet by any means, but certainly on its way there.
Yeah. There's Chulane. This is one of the better cards in Michael's deck, and if you can go like Chulane into any sort of creature here, that could be great. It's just gonna pass with the dragon and a force, I think, in hand.
That's what I see. So this is the position where, for Michael, shields are down. Abe doesn't know that. Could have a copy of something like Path to Exile floating around in hand. This is probably a Traverse the Ulvenwald. I will say the feed is frozen at the moment, so it is not Abe thinking extra hard about this. But we'll look into that as we are working on it.
Yep. I'm sure production is figuring out the problem right now. Might also just be an issue where the camera froze up for a second. We are watching with a little bit of a delay. Our players are a little bit ahead of us. There we go. So we jumped about 20 seconds into the future. It seemed like
then back.
there.
So we'll see as Rashad tries to get this fixed. But give us a moment, please. Okay. All right. So as we come back to the booth, my name is Monty DeVuti. I'm joined by Mason Clark and all of our friends at home on this fine Saturday night as we enjoy the CubeCon action. And this Vistas Unventured Cube has been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying watching it. I think these two decks from Michael and Abe really highlighting exactly what you can do in this cube. When the power level is a bit lower, you can afford to be a bit more, for lack of a better term, dirtily with things. But then once these decks really get up and running, they're doing incredible things. And we're seeing the more aggressive decks get punished a bit by the fact that because they don't have the tools to really put that mass amount of pressure on, the slower decks can stabilize more easily.
Yeah, it's really hard to be like one of those curve out aggressive decks when there are just so many tap lands in the cube too, right? And since you have to draft all your lands, so we're in the future. It looks like a Seasons Pass has happened, and then a Chew Lane. We got a Planisphere to play, but it's a creature, but not really a creature, so a little awkward with that. But now you're up to speed. And Monty, are we animating this Lair of the Hydra? Are we getting big?
I don't think.
Okay,
that's
it looks like it's getting
capped.
capped.
All right. So Timeless Dragon comes down. That activates Chile. There is a Brazen Borrower on an adventure. Seasons Pass did resolve. So Abe has access to tools in hand. I believe he's played a Bitter Triumph and a Fatal Push this game, excuse me. So those should both be back in hand already. And that means that for Michael, he knows that his resources and his creatures specifically are very much under attack.
Yep. Herodotus letting Abe draw one less land every now and again, plan out his next turn, and with players like Abe Corrigan, getting that information can be deadly.
Right, and information is key here, as Abe just knowing what is coming up also allows him to make the choice of whether he wants to sacrifice a Fiery Islet at any point to get access to that card, and how to plan essentially a turn in advance with that.
All right, so it is huge, and we know we have this kill spell for Tulane, but Disdain in the court, or excuse me, Disorder in the court, sorry about that, is in hand for Michael, and that's a way to save Tulane and then get a clue, potentially, or save your dragon, depending on where Bitter Triumph goes. So Michael might be able to kind of sneak a little bit of advantage here.
Yeah, having two creatures that essentially are able to dodge the Fatal Push from Abe in order to put pressure in is really big for Michael here, as it allows him to more aggressively use this card, and also I believe has access to Dromoka's command in hand. So definitely in the period where we got to this point, things have turned around quite a bit.
Yeah, and you see Abe feels the pressure too, because he's discarding a Generous Ent instead of losing the 3 life. That card is pretty nice, you know, and we're at a pretty late stage in the game, but he just needs every point of life right now.
Yeah, in hand is Fatal Push, but doesn't have the mana to cast it this turn. Had to use his black for the White of the Reliquary plus the Bitter Triumph. Also has Torrential Gearhulk and a counterspell.
Sorry, I can't help but laugh because Abe's just looking at the top of his deck, because Rada says you may look at any time. He just got a little bored. He was like, I forgot what's on top. I'm a little tired.
It's a game action he is allowed to take.
Okay, so Dromoka's command is the other card in hand, along with Disorder in the Court.
Yeah, Michael double checking, making sure you do not have access to Fatal Push this turn. So the other thing that Michael has to be considering is can I just push through lethal this turn by removing both of these creatures as potential blockers with Disorder in the court? He has access to a Lair of the Hydra as an attacker, and he has access to the Stramoka's command. So a lot of variables here from Mike Farm's position as to what you want to do in this spot.
Yeah, I think I really like courting and just saving your creature, getting Abe's off the board, and then just hitting for as much as you can, assuming, because this is in the upkeep here, so Michael doesn't know what he draws. His draw obviously might change things, but just get Abe almost dead. I mean, if you see him discard Generous Int, you know that he thinks that his life total really matters, so just trying to push there could be great. So it looks like we're going to get rid of...
Yeah, so I'm thinking that he's going for Disorder, blink Tulane and the white, and then use Dramoka's command to get rid of the Rada while you believe the coast is clear here. And this still leaves you 2 mana available, so you get to play Dramoka's command for maximum pressure coming across, and you get to sacrifice a clue still. And this means that if you're going to use this Dramoka's command anyways, you're doing it while you think the shields are down. So I love this line from Huron, just really pushing maximum pressure across.
Yep. And so then I thought this was all in his upkeep. Maybe I was mistaken. I don't know why.
I also thought it was in his upkeep.
Yeah, I think Michael should have a card in hand. I can't imagine it as long as they catch it. Well,
Tulane is tapped. They do need to catch that. But they may not, of course.
Yeah, it's time shifted as we saw there, where we jumped ahead a little bit in the future. Listen, you get an untapped Tulane, you're down a card in hand. It all evens out in the end. Not the end of the world.
Abe down to 4 health. Michael, I don't believe would have been able to force another counter by using a clue the previous turn. This is white for 4 coming across, and pretty big incentive for Huron to just take this. But the question is, are you worried about some kind of big burn spell from Abe? And it looks like the answer is yes, because Tulane is just going to jump.
What a bizarre game we're in.
It's absolutely wild.
Yeah. Pit of Triumph is going to flash back off the Gearhulk. We're going to discard a Miscalc, kill the Timeless Dragon.
Pays a life down to 1, by the way.
Yeah.
With Fiery Islet.
Draws off the clue.
And Lair of the Hydra is still there, so Michael just needs to be able to clear the way of 1 creature in order to close out this game.
Drew a Triome.
Not ideal.
Yeah. It's a redraw. We do have Path in our deck. I don't think we Path this game. Although you can eternalize the dragon, and you just get it back. So, it's just a 4/4, so I guess it's technically not back, but... All right, let's see. Aftermath Analyst. It's a goose in the land.
That's big, because I believe there's a Castle Ardenvale in the yard for Huron. So with Abe at 1, Castle Ardenvale, if given enough time, could potentially steal the game on its own.
Definitely. Can Ron cycle and activate Aftermath Analyst? Oh, we're a mana short.
I think he's a mana short here.
Unfortunate. The amount of value that could have been had. We'll have to settle for potentially game-winning value, as you were mentioning. And it looks like instead we are gonna eternalize the dragon.
Yeah, just get another lethal attacker on the board.
Yeah, that zombie's a dragon. It is a zombie dragon, to be fair.
All true things.
Yep. And I actually like this here, playing the Triumph, even though we are in top deck mode. Like you were saying before, we have the Lair, which can force lethal. It also is almost big enough just to force chump blocks. If Abe uses his mana and is sort of tap low, this Lair might just attack in and be in a position that's like, hey, chump or die. And this Fire Islet is turned off.
Yeah, so he just uses it for a card. Remember, every creature on the board is lethal right now for Micron, including the creature that's not on the board in that Lair of the Hydra. So 3 lethal attackers for Kron. Ape has a blocker in the form of one of these creature lands, but notably that Fiery Islet was his only blue mana for turning on Creeping Tar Pit.
Okay, ill-timed explosion, potentially huge, because that might be a one-sided wrath.
That's what he's hoping.
And then if it is, we can maybe start closing this door. Although, yeah, it looks like Abe's double checking. I'm not killing my white if I don't have to. My white.
All right, doing the considerations here. All right, creatures down. White has vigilance, so gets to attack here. Michael will get to pop his clue, but I think Michael knew about the fatal push, so I just don't know about eternalizing that dragon last turn versus sacrificing the analyst and really giving yourself all these resources to work with.
I think the idea was, I know I have, like you were saying, it was you have to hold up your mana or present a blocker, right? Because I have lethal with anything. And so you'll fatal push the dragon, right? Then I will animate the land will be even. And if I draw like Path or Reflector Mage, then I can maybe sneak across lethal. And so just, plan to use the Aftermath Analyst for the hidden mode of 1 power attacker there.
Right.
But obviously not the greatest play into the fatal push. You're kind of, spending a ton of mana and time in this sort of like desperation push. But sometimes you need a desperation push. It's kind of interesting to play the island.
Information is all out here. Kitsa comes down, has access to draw a card if you want, on future nerds, not this turn. Did play an island, as you mentioned. So the island is relevant because now has access to activating Lair of the Hydra for 6 as a blocker, and wouldn't without it, so now it can block Torrential Gearhulk, I guess is the thinking?
I think, yeah, because there are 7 lands that aren't the lair, so the 6 makes it so it's bigger. Obviously, if you're a looter, you normally want to discard the land.
Right. But you're at 8, so now your life total is very much a consideration as well. And Abe doing that math as well.
Abe almost has lethal with the Raging Ravine, right?
Yeah. Creeping Tar Pit again can't be animated right now. Doesn't have access to another blue mana.
Coiling Oracle.
All right.
Maybe.
Thundertrap Trainer is the draw. Can't play that this turn.
White attacking.
How
it
big
can
is
grow.
This white?
It's a 4/4. You can sack the Coiling Oracle to go get a blue land if you attack. Oh, it looks like he has what's that counterspell that does 3 damage from Ravnica? That is in Abe's hand.
Suffocating Blast.
Yeah,
is in Abe's hand, but needs double blue for that. Can't cast that. Oh, Snapcaster Mage.
This is potentially huge.
I think he can just blink all 3 blockers. Disorder in the Court is still in the graveyard, isn't it?
I believe so. I don't think it exiles itself upon being cast.
Yeah, so...
And Abe, you see he had the other counterspell, the blue-black one. I forget its name in the moment, pardon me.
Soul Manipulation, but doesn't have the blue because he went for the Coiling Oracle. Yeah, just Disorder this. And I think you're able to do it for 3, hit all 3 of those creatures. This is Kron's last push. You need 1 more mana alongside the lair to make it into a 1/1. There you go. So now Disorder for 3. Get rid of your 3 blockers. Turn lair into a 1/1, and I don't think Abe has anything for this.
He definitely doesn't. I mean, Michael's looking at his mana and everything, but we can see from Abe's body language, he knows it's over.
Man, this was an incredible game of Magic.
Yeah.
Disorder your 3. Abe's looking at the board. Signs are on the wall.
He's nodding his head. Yeah.
Wow.
Oof, what a game there. Oh my goodness. Incredibly well played by both
Incredible
players.
stuff from Mike Ron. Incredible match from both players. That was an absolute treat to watch. Just this Vistas Unventured cube with everything it has to offer in the hands of two incredible players, and what ended up happening was just a wonderful match of Magic where there's a lot of complicated elements to consider, and both players at the end of a long weekend, not even done quite yet, there's another day to go, and Mike Cron with that win has locked up his spot in the final day of competition in the top 64. For Abe Corrigan, he's 1-1 now, so he gets another chance next round to get it, but first we have to get there. So I'm going to remind you at home, !donate in the chat. We are raising funds and awareness for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. This is a wonderful cause. If you are able to donate, we would appreciate it, of course. And thank you for helping bring awareness to this cause. But also, we have more Magic for you. I believe, Rashad, are we going to a break or right into it? All right, so we're going to go to a break. On the other side of this break, we're going to have some win-and-ins for the final day of competition for you. So don't go anywhere, and we will see you on the other side.
Hey! A bunch of us were going to get together and test out my new cube. We were hoping to get an 8th. Would you be game?
I'd love to, but I'm pet sitting. My sister's out of town for a few days, and she really needed someone to take care of Dingus. I'd love to play, but I'm tied up here.
Oh, well, that's a shame. I was really hoping to get your input.
It's a desert environment that has a lot of cool stuff going on. There's goblins, ramp, aristocrats. It's 2025. Everything's a desert cube. Don't get me wrong, I love all cubes regardless of size, shape, or theme, but where's the spice? Well, that's the cool thing. Thanks to the cube's other rule, the characteristics that make a card playable are kind of turned on their head. While staples like Bolt and Ewit are still very good, a lot of little-known cards like Apex Altasaur and False Prophet and Scornful Egotist are suddenly very playable. Stadium Benders has to be my favorite, though. The card is just... it goes into every single red deck. Hey, wait, hold on. You do realize that Scornful Egotist is an 8-mana 1/1, right? That has better stats while morphed than when you cast it for its full cost. How on earth could a card like that be remotely playable? That's the cool part. Everyone starts the game with an emblem that gives their creature spells emerge. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you can sacrifice another creature that you control but don't necessarily own to reduce the cost of the cast spell. Think the Harrogast but permanent. Most of the cube was designed with this rule in mind, and it should come as no surprise that some very cool synergies come into play when every single
Welcome to the FemCube. This is your host, Anthony Adams, and I am one of a trio from the UberCube podcast. This cube has been an absolute passion project, and I want to start out by thanking May and my mother and everyone else for giving me perspective in order to build such an environment. Every card in here is a representation of the powerful contributions of women in Magic. So let's get into the cube. Let's start out with some of my favorites. We got a typical, very peasant plus kind of idea about this cube. That's kind of the vibe, even though you'll see some powerful cards in here. But some of the favorites that you can win with are cards like Dream Trawler. This is an absolute bomb in this environment. Sublime Epiphany is another major card that just crushes people. Then let's go into the idea of something like aggro strategies, where Thalia, Heretic Cathar, just really stakes a claim in this environment. And then through intent, I have each primary color of a a lead character or a major character like an Elspeth or Liliana or Chandra in this environment to represent the Planeswalkers. Then we have kind of your mid-range control where you can go do stuff like Samut or Vivian or Halana and Alana Partners. These cards, especially that one, absolutely just crushes people. The one card that I've been dying to get in this environment is a young Pyromancer. I'm really looking forward to a woman representation of the art for that card. But Izzet Spells Matters is very powerful in this environment. You can also lean into like a Stacks and Taxes type of environment, which I love. There's a mid-range tokens. Then we got some ramp mid-range control with stuff like Bonnie Powell or the Goose Mother. This environment has really grown, and it's been through the feedback and the perspective of the community. I want to thank everyone for really supporting this. This is a passion project, and thank you so much for checking out the Cube. Happy cubing.
Hi, my name is Mike Bergman. I'm from Galesburg, Illinois, and I am the creator of the Foil Modern Horizons Cube for CubeCon 2025. I know that when most people hear the word Modern Horizons, they think of Modern Horizons 3 and all the broken cards that came from there. Don't worry, I feel you on that. I cut all the broken cards that came from that set. This is focused more on Modern Horizons 1 and 2. There are some 3 cards in here that make the draft overall a lot better. But some of the ones that are broken that I cut, for example, are like Psychic Frog, Ocelot Pride, all the Flip Walkers, etc. If you want the full list, you can go to cubecobra.com. This draft is focused more on synergy and the draft mechanics of Modern Horizons. One last thing I want to mention is the mana fixing is very good here. I did add Shocks and Surveil lands after I went to CubeCon a few years in a row, and most of the cubes that I've seen that people like have Shocks and Surveils no matter what the set or theme is. So the mana fixing here is very, very good. But thank you for listening to me, and I hope to see you at CubeCon.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to my Pauper Cube for CubeCon 2025. Thank everyone who voted.
Welcome back, friends. Thank you for joining us on this fine Saturday night as we close out coverage of the third day of CubeCon 2025. My name is Monty DeBooty. I've been joined all evening by the wonderful Mason Clark, and we have watched some incredible magic from the Vistas Unventured Cube. We got to watch Mike Hron be our featured drafter, bring us through this cube, and get his 2-0, so he's locked up his spot for tomorrow, which is the top 64. And I will remind you again, all weekend long, we have been raising awareness and funds for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. This is a cause very near and dear to us, and if you're able to support it in any way, we do greatly appreciate it. But just your presence enough is greatly appreciated here. And we are here in the final round of the day, and it is Abe Corrigan versus Kyle Ferguson. And I will remind you, these are two players who have both picked up their losses to Michael Hron in the previous 2 rounds. Now we're joining them in game 3, and this match is all for all the marbles. The winner comes back tomorrow for the top 64 draft. The loser is eliminated, Mason.
Yep, and this is game 3. We're jumping in here. It's getting late into the night. And what we can say is we saw Kyle's deck very aggressive. Abe deck's very controlling. Kyle might be somebody who can actually put a thorn in Abe's side and put pressure on him.
Yeah, getting 2 damage across with the Usher of the Fallen here and getting that token means that the board presence has already been created here for Kyle. For Abe has that white but doesn't want to quite trade it off for the Usher of the Fallen, so just takes the damage and gets the turn back. One of the tools that Abe has access to that can really clear off this board nicely, of course, is Ill-Timed Explosion, but that requires blue and red mana, and so far, Abe had neither until that island. The other tool he has is Harvester of Misery, so Abe would really like to start picking up some more lands to go here with this board.
Yeah, this Coiling Oracle is actually great for Abe. He can now sort of block and sack the Oracle if he wants to, right, to go get a land and jump ahead on the curve. Has a lot of really strong 4 and 5 mana cards and a good amount of tap lands to enable his 4-color mana base. This Faithful Mending is not what Kyle is wanting in his aggressive draw. He has some Madness energies.
All right, and one of the cards that he can do is Oscorp Industries from the Mayhem, so at least gets some value, even though it does cost you 2 life to do so. But I believe with how things have gone this turn, this is going to just be a pass from Kyle, and that's not what you want to be doing against the aggressive deck. You want to be able to sustain this pressure, and he is not doing that this turn.
Yeah, this is not super, making us feel good about what's happening here for Kyle, right? Now, Faithful Mending does gain 2 life, so I'll say Kyle breaks even, on the turn. He drew 2 cards to make a land drop, but that's more of what Abe wants to be doing. Abe would be happy if his deck was doing something like that. They're accruing a little bit of value. As Generous Int's going to go find a forest of some kind, and then, Courtney Oracle's going to get sacrificed and go put a land into play. This is going to guarantee the 5th land drop for Abe. And that's when his deck really starts kicking as Creeping Tar Pit enters the battlefield.
Yeah, so that's double black online for Abe now, and has the red mana available as well, thanks to that Taiga that he just got with the Generous Sense. So now all of the board wipes, all of the ways to control the board are online. If Abe has access to this Harvester of Misery here, it all but closes the door on this game, I would say. Even though we are very early in it, it just feels like, whew, what does Kyle do about this,
Yeah, I mean, he's never supposed to block there, right? And now there's just a lot of pressure on the board. And he has cards like Marauding Mako he can play that could theoretically grow, but there's so much pressure on him at the moment. And Dragon Rage Channeler, not gonna really be it. We are close to Delirium. We got that going for us.
Not able to flash back the Faithful Mending this turn, of course, because wanted to develop the DRC there as well. But the clock from Abe, this is the thing about Abe's deck, is it doesn't develop that quickly, but all of his creatures hit very hard. So as soon as the Abe is able to turn the board in his favor, he closes out the game pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, here you see him sort of just like attacking in for 8, which is just a lot. And with that Creeping Tar Pit in play, right, on the next turn, he's going to be able to basically have Kyle at 1 guaranteed, which means we have to start chump blocking. And here's Ill-Timed Explosion. All right, so
there's a Spell Pierce. Very clutch for Kyle.
Oh, and Vindicate's on top of the deck.
Okay, all right.
All right, that's nice.
He is at 4. That is a problem, but it's not hopeless quite yet. It does feel like he is almost forced to vindicate the Tar Pit, but that depends on whether he has something else, because this Harvester has Menace, and that is also an issue on this board.
Yeah. And I think we might actually just be seeing...
Yeah, that's step 1. And that's the response, of course. Vista in the yard.
Namesake of the cube.
This cube has been a lot of fun to watch. I personally don't love playing with lowered powered cubes. I like having access to the high explosiveness of the MTGO Vintage Cube, for example, but I do love casting these cubes because the gameplay is just so sweet when you're removed from it.
Yeah. A lot of good back and forth. And a lot of interesting picks, too, in the draft of, well, that card's stronger, but, I kind of want some energy. As here comes Raging Ravine plus Petty Theft.
There's lethal, so we have the handshake, and Abe Corrigan, despite the loss to Michael Hron in the previous round, was able to get the job there, and fortunately for him, he gets to close out the day on a high, and we will be seeing him alongside 63 other players, including Michael Hron, tomorrow for the top 64. Now, we are waiting to hear from production if we do have another match of Magic to bring you. All right, so bear with us for a moment as we decide whether There is going to be a match to bring you here, but while we wait, I will remind you again, CubeCon 2025 is raising awareness and funds for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Just being here, just raising awareness for this cause is really help enough, and we do appreciate you spending your Saturday night here with us, as well as all of your time this weekend. But if you are able to help and donate, that is greatly appreciated as well. Exclamation mark donate in the chat. We'll bring up that Tiltify link, and we very much appreciate all of the support that everyone has shown us this weekend. Thank you so much for your time, and I am pleased to let you know that we have a game 3 to bring you. So the other decider match from this feature Cube Pod that we have been showing you this evening is going to be the last match that we cover for the day, and we'll be getting that up for you momentarily here. Okay, so on the left of your screen, Derek Ralphieson. On the right, Eric Mecklenburg. So, game 3, both of the players with one trophy to their name over the course of the weekend. And this is their most important match of the weekend because this is the match that will decide who will be eliminated and who will be back tomorrow for the top 64 draft, Mason.
Yeah, a lot on the line here. Obviously, tomorrow you're still going to probably meet up with some people at CubeCon. You know, you're going to get some fun games in before, you know, you fly out or head back home in the car. But you want to be in the day too. You want the chance to win CubeCon. You know, these opportunities only come around once a year.
Absolutely. And it will be a level playing field when we come back tomorrow. It is going to be 64 players, and the winner of each of those pods will be back for the final top 8 pods. So a lot of fun, high stakes magic, or as high stakes as it gets at CubeCon, where things are very much community oriented. Magic left to be played for those who can come back for tomorrow. So here we go. Game 3 of the final round of the top 128. And Derek on the left. His deck, I believe, as I am bringing up their list here, Derek's deck is more or less Sultai. I do see a lot of graveyard synergies happening here. Cards like Bloodghast, as well as the Grim Flare and Sidisi, cards that you and I have both played with quite a bit. So some very cool stuff happening in the Sultai deck, and that's the card I was looking for. The Spider Spawning is there as well. So he has all of that going for him. On the other side, Eric's deck is black-red primarily. Yeah, definitely black-red, but not all of the sacrifice shenanigans that we saw in one of our previous rounds. All of those really went into someone else's deck. So this is a black-red deck that is not focusing on sacrifice, more focusing on the graveyard and madness.
And their Sneaky Snacker, a card you'd love to discard to things like blood tokens. We see that actually be a very powerful strategy in the Pauper format, and it could be very annoying here as well.
And I will remind players at home watching, this is sudden death magic. They are in game 3. There are no draws. So when they go to time and turns are done, it is going to be a life total rule that could decide all this. And that is not ideal for the Sultai player, as typically Rakdos tends to be the more aggressive. In situations like sudden death, that is something that heavily rewards you for being the aggressive player.
All right.
Poxwalker's the play here, I believe, for Eric. 3 mana, 3/1 Death Touch with Curse of the Walking Pox. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you can return Poxwalkers from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So very much that recursive threat that you're hoping to have in situations like this. Same with the Bloodghast on the other side for Derek.
Yeah, it's funny. So far, Derek's cast a bunch of cards that Eric would actually be pretty happy to have in his deck. You know, he's like, I kind of want the Bloodghast, the Sneaky Snacker I can get back, you know, and we'll have to see here what we can do. As you mentioned, life totals could play a big factor in this game.
All right, and it is going to be the conspiracy theorist coming down as the turn goes back Derek's way.
This card I've actually played a little bit with. It's pretty good when it gets going. It's
I am a
surprisingly
big
good card.
conspiracy theorist fan.
Oh, you are? What's your favorite?
Flat Earth, absolutely.
Of course, of course.
Big fan.
I'm a shuffler, truther. So
okay, fair enough.
That's the conspiracy theories I run in.
You're a classy conspiracy theorist. I see. You're not
right.
like one of us.
Yeah. I'm not committed to the bit, you could say. So we are gonna untap here. Oh my gosh, that is a call back card on the battlefield here. Just cast a second ago. I wish I could remember its name. It's
Haunted Dead.
Haunted Dead, yeah. A surprisingly nice card. Saw a little bit of play in Pioneer when the format first started. Never really took off, though. As here's a conspiracy theorist. Get into combat.
All right, and I think the decision from Eric here is what to discard to the theorist as it attacks. You can pay one and discard a card if you draw a card. And it is going to be the dragon whose name I'm forgetting right now, the Moonveil Regent, being discarded here.
Yeah, Eric's playing a lot of cards that I tried and just couldn't get to work very well, but he's doing well with them, as Moonveil Regent is a weirdly powerful card.
Yeah, and again, with a minute and a half left on the clock, I don't want to say that this game may necessarily come down to sudden death, but it is something that the players have to be keeping in mind as they are trying to maximize their resources. I did see a spider spawning there in Derek's hand, so has access to that, but not that many card types in the graveyard right now. Only 2, I believe, 3 with the land, so... Of course, spider spawning is for creatures, so with 2 in the yard, that is at least available for him, but not even an untapped land this turn.
What is...
I'm on it. I think it's a teamer card.
I think it's
not a teamer card.
No?
I lied.
It looks like it's from
it is Tevel the Balance Scale.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Which I know, but my throat's a little raspy. Can you...
Okay, no, absolutely. So Tevel is a dragon, a 4/4 flyer for 4. When it attacks, you mill 3 cards, and then you may return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tab. So very much like a flying version of the Blossoming Tortoise that we've seen in the previous matches. But also it has that Sidisi line of text of whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. So it kind of feels like a Blossoming Tortoise and a Sidisi stapled together to me. All in one flying dragon package. What a card.
You love to see it. Irax, the Empress of Mars, comes down. 5/4 Battlecry Trampler that has the Paradox text.
All right. All right, so with the Moonstone Regent attacking, Derek is now down to 10, and we are at what I believe is time. Of course, we'll get some sort of visual representation if the players do go into turns there down in the feature match area, but these dragons coming across the air, back and forth at each other, very much doing some cool things here.
Yeah, Air taking a little read just as we were.
There's the zombie token.
All-timer zombie token art.
Of course. Can't go wrong with a classic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we are in Derek's turn post-combat. It does look like Eric took the damage down to what appears to be 12 here. And what is the post-combat follow-up for Derek is the question. Counting the cards in the graveyard.
Is this some sort of delve spell?
Perhaps. We do know the spider spawning is in hand, and I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Still only 2 creatures in the yard. It does also have Life from the Loam now, so could potentially start dredging that if he wants.
Yeah, Growth Spiral, dredge the loam.
Yeah, that is certainly a consideration here.
Oh, Mosswood Dread Knight.
We're going on an adventure.
All right, taking the actual draw, it hits Prismatic Vista.
Okay, all right. Finds the Vista, gets a land. Wouldn't be surprised to just see the Dread Knight deployed here. Of course, that depends on what else Derek has in hand. Now could go Growth Spiral. Still not dredging, taking the card.
Okay,
And now gets the Sneaky Snacker back. And a zombie. Oh, okay, this engine is zooming.
Yeah, we're cooking. Has Thought Erasure in hand. Eric's only on 2 cards. Now, Eric's a Madness deck, so might backfire a little bit. Right. And now we're in turn 1 of turns.
All right, turn 1. So at the end of turn 5, the player with higher life total wins the match. That is what they have available to them right now.
Moonveil Regent is a very interesting card. Whenever you cast a spell, you can discard your hand and then draw a card for each of the colors that spell had, which in these top deck situations actually can sometimes chain off and completely take over a game if you have enough, cheap spells that you can chain into. So I'm curious if Eric has some combination here. We saw the Fiery Temper in one of the other decks, so nothing like that can come down, but there's still like Lightning Bolt and Violent Eruption in the cube, so
yeah, we'll see what exactly he is able to accomplish here, as he is thinking about there is a Kitchen Imp in his deck as well, so that could potentially be some extra hasty damage coming out if he is able to find that.
Mm-hmm.
I think now that we are in turns, the players can slow down a bit and just make sure to think about their plays at the normal pace that you would be hoping to play at here. Very high stakes match of Magic, as we've mentioned.
Okay, this is the Zombie Chariot from Aether Drift.
The Crypt Caller Chariot.
Crypt Caller, okay. All right, yeah, we're going to discard our hand and then Madness.
Yeah, the synergies are very much rolling here. Madness lets you get back the Poxwalkers as well. Both of these players are doing some very cool things here.
Yeah, and then we get the guy from Mars. Seems like the judge is stepping in. Maybe there might be some confusion about what's happening.
Yeah, so if I am understanding what just happened correctly, Crypt Caller Chariot was played. That triggered the Regent. Eric chose to discard his hand to the Regent, which means that he should be ending up with a card in hand. Madness, Anye's Ravager. That is him casting a spell from technically exile, which means that he's not casting a spell from his hand. So that triggers Aroxa, which gets you an Alien Warrior creature token. It also triggers Poxwalkers from the graveyard, so that comes back to the battlefield tapped. And then he gets to attack.
Not
simple, really.
Yeah.
On the end step, I believe this is Haunted Dead coming back from Derek, discarding 2 cards. One of which is that Thought Erasure you mentioned.
Yeah, and we get the zombie, thanks to our dragon. And then now we're going to draw the card from the Moonveil Regent.
Okay, so this was in response. So there's the card from the Moonveil Regent, and now the question is, what is Derek blocking with? There's the Battle Cry on the Araxa, It itself has Trample and is a 5-power creature. The Moonveil Regent is also a 5-power creature, but not with any form of evasion. So we may just see the Spirit token chumping the Moonveil and potentially Derek saying, I need every other creature alive because my only hope here is to try to close out the game on my turn. So I'm not going to bother trying to trade with the Araxa in any way. I'm just going to take it, go down to 2, and then hope that I can mount a lethal attack on my turn.
Makes a lot of sense. Plays a land for turn as the last card. No point in handing it. Now we're in turn 2 of turns. And yeah, we're just attacking with everything. And it does look to be lethal.
All right.
Awesome.
Wow. Well done there. Awesome game of Magic. Derek Raufeson is going to be our winner. Sigh of relief from him. Looks quite happy. And you know what? I would be too. This was round 15 of CubeCon, essentially. A lot of matches of Cube have been played so far this weekend. And, at the end of the weekend, every player who makes it all the way through, I believe, is playing 7 to 8 different cubes. So a lot of incredible Magic being played. And it's just been a blast to watch.
It's an absolute blast to watch and absolutely blast to commentate it with you, Monty. I had a great time tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me, Mason. One more time for tonight, I will remind everyone, CubeCon 2025, we are raising awareness and funds for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We appreciate you being here with us. We appreciate you helping us support this cause. And if you are able to help in any way with donating, !donate in the chat. We'll get you over to that page. But that is it for us for tonight. We will be back tomorrow. There will be a top 64 draft. We will be starting at 9 a.m. Central Time, and then I will see all of you again, hopefully, for the top 8 draft in the afternoon. Thank you so much. Have a good evening, and we will see you tomorrow. Good night.